Ladies and gentlemen, is it just me or is this November the gift that keeps on giving? Huh? BB23 didn't know when to end, but I got to tell you, that papered off and dwindled down at the perfect time. Because if you've been under a rock, we got a lot of the challenge drama now to discuss. Now, if any of you all have followed me on Patreon, then you know my thoughts on the challenge currently. This is why I'm not covering Spies, Lies, and Allies. Quite frankly, I believe the brand of the challenge on MTV has grown quite stale. If you're a patron, you know all too well how I feel about the game as it is currently being implemented. I think it's kind of repulsive. I think it's too heavily scripted and rigged. And I just think the game needs a jolt of revitalization. Well, this is why we are so excited for the Challenge All Stars, ladies and gentlemen. Because the Challenge All Stars, there are no rookies we don't care about. There's only veterans we care about. There's long-standing relationships. There are mistakes people made in the past that will come back to haunt them in the future. There is karma that is already on the cutting room floor that we can appreciate that is part of the strategy of All Stars. When it comes to Spies, Lies, and Allies, we have grown tired of the same formulaic process of every season. It's time for a change. Yeah, I know Survivor's making some changes. Some of them are cringy over there. Don't change it too much to the point where it no longer looks like what it used to look like. All we're asking is that you change the game for the better. And that's why I'm so proud of this brother right here, Leroy, Bruce Leroy. Um, I can't call myself a huge challenge super fan throughout all of the years. Um, but I remember growing up watching my big brother watch the challenge versus road rules. Um, Real World versus Real World versus Road Rules, the challenge, and but that was before my time. So now I can go back and watch certain episodes, but I do know enough about the era right before this one to know that Leroy is completely warranted to feel the way he does, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let me provide a quick little backstory for you all. Leroy was part of the alliance with Cam, Cara Maria, and Paulie that dominated. I believe that was Challenge Season 34. They dominated that season. I think that was War of the Worlds 2. I might be mistaken, but I believe that was War of the Worlds 2. They completely decimated that season. They provided for us the amount of pivoting prowess we've been asking for. The average fan really just wants opposing sides to go at it. As long as we see that, we get enough drama and entertainment to hold us over. Well, Challenge 34 gave us that in spades. It gave us two sides. It gave us Josh the Buffoon, Laurel, Bananas, Zach, and all of them little henchmen over there. And then you had Cara Maria, Paulie, Leroy, Cam, Ninja, Kaylee. All right, they had a D. They had a squad over here. Now I'm mentioning this for a reason. Because when it came down to it, D Win, she was on code with the black folks. She wasn't on code with the vets trying to make sure that only the good old boys could keep winning. Huh? She wasn't part of the group that was all go along, get along gang members. Huh? D Win was trying her best to aim towards her win conditions. And D Win ended up winning that season. Now, why am I mentioning this if this is a Leroy video? Because if you all know, post BLM, D Win was made an example of. They martyred that woman. Not in a good way, though. They basically executed her for the entire world to see. They basically executed her. And they permabanned her from this show for the foreseeable future. They even embarrassed the woman to an extent where, on Total Madness, they re-edited the show just to keep her from having the most amount of visibility. I mean, they edited her to have the least amount of visibility on the show up to a certain point in the season. So, production has shown us they have the power when they know there is something that is unacceptable. They have the power to keep that person who did that incendiary move or said those incendiary words. They have shown us through historical context that they have the power and the wherewithal to be able to act immediately. They did that with D Win. But I was the one telling fans as early as back then that that was grifting because they did not have that same energy for Jordan making mucky noises towards Nia. They did not have that energy for CT comparing a black man to a serial killer just because he didn't know him. And they sure as hell didn't do that with Camilla regarding Leroy. And in this rant, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to fully expose production for the cowards they were and for the cowards they are currently. Because, in my opinion, they are using the black players on their show for politics. During Challenge 36, if you rewatch that season after watching Leroy's words here, it's a little bizarre how hard they pushed that political agenda. You had Cam sitting down with Anissa trying to create parallels to the black experience, but Anissa is rarely on code herself. It got to a point where the pandering got a bit pedantic. The pandering got a bit repulsive. And at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, in this rant, I'm going to show you all why they're pandering so hard. They're worried that their mistakes of the past could come back and haunt them because cancel culture is real. Make no mistake about it, MTV would love to bring Jordan back. They would love it, but they can't right now. But you know, I'm hearing rumors him and Nia could come back for All Stars 3. But this is why I am so proud of this brother Leroy for dropping this video. Because, in my opinion, this video should keep Camilla from All Stars. It should keep Jordan from All Stars. It should keep anyone who was part of a prejudiced moment or a racially insensitive moment. It should make production, MTV, Viacom, the whole nine, it should make them all hesitate before giving these same players the same privileges they've had for years. Now, what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of people and a lot of things I want to discuss here. Now, I started y'all off with a cold opening, but I'm not going to hold you any longer than this. I want to go ahead and dive right into what Leroy has to say, Coach. So without further ado, let's get into Leroy putting MTV on blast. Boy, he unleashed the hyper beam. You feel it, dig me, Coach?
What's up, everybody? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Leroy Garrett. I am a former cast member on MTV's The Challenge. And there's something that's been weighing on my mind for a long time, on my conscience, about my time spent on The Challenge for my 12 seasons. And I just want to have a moment of truth. And I want to basically explain to you guys, why I retired from MTV and why I stopped doing The Challenge. I get a lot of questions day to day, whether it's in my barber studio, or whether it's on Instagram, or whether it's on Twitter, of why I decided to leave, prematurely. A lot of people said, "Man, you got a lot left in you, and are you retiring because you're tired of losing, or whatever the case may be?" And actually, that's actually far from it. There was something that happened to me while filming several years ago that has been weighing heavy on my conscience for a long time. And I just never forgiven myself for it. And I've always wanted to speak about it, but I was always afraid to.
I'm happy this brother said that. Because oftentimes, as straight black men, we never want to admit weakness. We never want to admit we have fear. Oftentimes, we have to be the rock for our family. We can't afford to be rattled. We can't afford to be emotional. We have to always be logical. And we have to always put the bottom line above how we feel as human beings. I appreciate the fact that Leroy is allowing us to be behind the curtain a bit here. I feel very humbled and thankful that he is giving us the opportunity to understand the mindset and mentality of a black man who played in the eras he played in. In a sense, Leroy came in around the back end of an era that many people would call the golden age, but it was also an era that had a lot of scandals to it. And then he also played in his prime during an era where I began watching the show, and that's why I have preferential treatment towards him to a degree, some affinity towards Leroy, because I kind of grew up with Leroy in a sense, right? And I think this plays a role in why people are attached to certain players on All Stars, why they're attached to certain players still on a standalone show on MTV. But I first want to start this off by giving Leroy credit for admitting this much. Because I can tell it took a lot for him to make it to this point where he wanted to discuss this out loud.
And now that, I've decided to step away from the show, I felt as if this would be a good time to actually talk about what happened. For years, I've been beating myself up with guilt over how I reacted and things I could have done differently. And finally now, I've mustered up the strength to talk about it and finally be able to forgive myself. So let's just get right into it. For those of you who are, avid challenge watchers, I know you guys remember the season Dirty 30 that we filmed in Colombia. I think this was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And there was an episode on Dirty 30.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the Camilla versus Leroy of it all, I just want to let you all know there's a reason why Leroy had to wait this long before coming out here. It's because what you got to understand, when you jump on these reality TV shows, they make you sign contracts. These contracts come with embargo agreements. They're like non-disclosures, which basically dictate you can't really speak on certain things that happen regarding production and or the behind the scenes information. Non-cast members or non-production members would not be privy to. You're not allowed to really chime in on these things after up until a certain point. You usually have to wait until your season has been done airing for a certain amount of time before you can chime in more deeply on these conversations. This is why you saw a certain player from a Big Brother season on my channel break down a certain season months after their season had to air. These things happen in the industry. They do it to keep control over the players even after the season's over. They basically dangle the winnings of the season over their head. If they go against or breach the contract in any way, shape, or form, understand the powers that be now have the power to keep all of your money from you, even though you've given them all of the screen time, you've given them all of the confessionals they could want. They still have the power to be judge, jury, and executioner in determining whether you get paid what you are owed if you breach that contract. So understand, Leroy and other black players were under this pressure, but not just black people. Everybody on this show was under this type of pressure, okay? This is why certain people on this show let certain stuff go, because you got to understand, the players who had the actual power and influence to do something, to even help Leroy in this situation with Camilla, they didn't speak up because they were enjoying all of the perks they were getting from production, being allowed to win season after season after season. Why would I step up and speak up for this black man when I keep making millions off of this same stuff? Oh, I'm going to allow it. And that's the thing. Most people will enable negativity if they can see some positivity in it for themselves. That's the dirtiness of the challenge in a nutshell. But this is also the catch 22 with constantly bringing back people season to season and not having seasons full of newbies like Big Brother does. If you're not going to make it 100% fresh season to season, then you are running the risk of having it 100% stale season to season. And when you have players who are in fear that they will lose their check if they stand up for what is right, then you have an integrity problem here, okay? And you have a look the other way problem here. Now, I'm not going to go into detail, but there's a woman who has already come out and she has said that MTV allowed some other stuff to pop off, and I'm not going to get into that, but I believe it was a white lady who came out and said that they allowed some assault to take place on that show, allegedly. All right, let me be specific with how I say my words here. But my point is, ladies and gentlemen, when you have a systemically toxic environment full of young people who are hungry for money, who are willing to do whatever it takes for money, it creates a have and have not system where the people who are the most desperate constantly get rewarded because they're willing to buck dance it up, possibly buck break themselves for that money. Same thing applies to the women. If they're willing to sleep with a producer or two, they might be handed a win at a certain point. You never know. But what you need to understand is this goes on in Hollywood in general, right? This isn't just a Viacom problem. This isn't just an MTV problem. But I commend Leroy because by him casting a spotlight on this, hopefully it can create positive change in society moving forward. And that's all we can really ask for. But without further ado, let's allow Leroy to break down his talking points and how he truly feels.
Episode 9 to be exact, and the name of it was called Rampage. That was the name of the actual episode. And it basically was called Rampage because there was an instance where another former cast member, her name is Camilla, where she made racist comments towards me and was violent towards me. And MTV didn't do anything about it to help me or protect me at that point in time. And for the longest, I wanted to quit the show. For the longest, I wanted just to retire. For the longest, I wanted to speak up and say something. But in all honesty, a lot of me was afraid. A part of me stayed with the franchise because of money, and I was just lost. I was just, and as I watched back that actual episode, and I think back to that time, this Leroy now wouldn't have put up with that, but that Leroy then did. And I needed to get this off my chest because I want to tell Leroy back then that I forgive you for the way that you handled it, because I felt like I was alone and I had nobody, so I just did what I had to do to survive. And I was thinking about, making money more than I was thinking about my integrity or standing up for black people, because we've been going through a lot since then up until now. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually watch the episode right here on my laptop, and I'm basically going to narrate everything that happened to basically explain to you how everything went down. So just bear with me, and as I put this together, you guys can actually go back because the episode is on YouTube and it's on Paramount Plus, where you can watch the episode. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So without further ado, here we go. So at the beginning of this episode, I'm in the room and I'm speaking about who's going to take what girl out in the elimination. I say her, and the camera pans over to Camilla, who she's standing inside. She's standing in the doorway of the sliding door. She's looking, so she's basically kind of eavesdropping. You can see in her face that she's pretty intoxicated.
All right, now, now, patrons, anyone who has watched the autobiography of a buffoon, a Josh Martinez story, it's almost as if I timed that video. That's like a motion picture. It's a movie exposing why Josh ain't shit. But that can be to the side for now. That video also exposed how production selectively allows behavior from their pets that they don't allow from non-pets. Leroy is basically shining a spotlight on Camilla's behavior here. Now, if you were to fast forward to current stages of the challenge, where Fessy is sent home for touching Josh, interesting. You're sent home for that. But CT, him Josh up, he doesn't get sent home for that. I showed them these examples already. Now you have a situation here where Leroy is bringing up what happened with Camilla, how she was very racist towards him, but MTV covered it all up. Now, Leroy admitted he was scared to speak up because he needed the money, as all black men in this age range probably do, right? This exposes the same toxic MTV environment I revealed during that Josh video. But the truth is, production covered that up just like they covered up Jordan's antics because they viewed their non-black pets as too valuable to hold accountable at this time of the challenge. This was a transitional period of the show. I remember, this was around the time where they were getting the Tonys of the world, the Corys of the world, and they were starting to replace all of the old guard with some of the fresh blood of the Nelsons of the world. I remember this stage of the game, but once again, understand, this was the stage where the Corys and Nelsons had to keep their mouths shut and couldn't even speak up for Leroy because they had to make Leroy, they basically had to allow Leroy to go at it with Camilla on his own because they were just the new kids on the block. They didn't have any say in anything, and that further contributes to why this is toxic. Because if we're talking about a racist situation, it shouldn't matter if you're a rookie or not. You black, you have the right to speak on this. But these white vets will make you feel like because you're a rookie and you're already at a disadvantage, you can't afford to speak up for black people because then you won't be brought back again for a second season to be allowed to be a vet whose voice is actually heard. You see that? So it creates this weird quid pro quo situation popping off. This weird, you scratch my back, now I scratch yours later, maybe if they bring you back. It basically coerces the rookies to lay down their swords and bend their knees so one day someone might bend their knee for them. It's like hazing. See, I'm breaking this down to the simplistic perspective, right? Because I want you all to see what I see at, at a broader scale, right? Because until people see it like I see it on a broader scale, they won't understand why I prefer Big Brother. But if you see it how I see it, then you'll get why I prefer Big Brother. You'll get why I prefer Challenge All Stars over Challenge Spies, Lies, and Allies. It's because these shows have more of a soul to them than the show MTV is throwing on television. The show MTV is throwing on feels like popcorn, feels like fast food. It feels like it wasn't made with any love for the actual sport. You know? The same double standards and special treatment Camilla and Jordan got, Josh continues to get in a different way. All of these things are connected. And that's what I want y'all to pay very close attention to. Yeah, Josh hasn't won a season, but Josh's behavior is just as bad as Camilla's. And this is why people question his sexuality, because he looks like Camilla when doing it. But Josh gets the same benefit of the doubt Camilla got. And what do they have in common? They're both Latina. The Latin community seems to have a hatred of black people. Camilla is from Brazil. You know, the place where black men, black people created capoeira? Huh? Yeah. I'm talking black people were so brilliant in Brazil, they fooled folks into thinking they were dancing when they were practicing their fighting moves. I'm talking that Brazil. Huh? I'm talking Pele. I'm talking, do you not understand how many black, amazing people came from that area? But do you also understand the racism in South America too? So understand, Leroy is going to break down how this is learned behavior that Camilla used on him. But once again, if Camilla is allowed to do these things, then the white rookies on the same season of Dirty 30 are learning behavior that it's okay to be racist too. Production don't care about that though. They just care about their edit making sense enough for their ad reads to make sense enough for them to make some money. It's all about money. So you got the players who are too scared to say anything for the money. You have the producers being able to exert power universally, tyrannically, in whichever direction they want because they have the money. And that's the game. It's sad, but it's the truth. It's sad, but it's the truth. You know? I mean, Leroy and Cam saved Challenge 36, if we're really keeping it real. Bailey and Swaggy saved Challenge 35, if we're really keeping it real. Why are the two most beloved and prominent black couples in reality TV history so underappreciated by the same production team that grifted after Black Lives Matter? Oh, y'all not hearing me? This is why I never celebrated D getting permabanned. I knew it was fake. You know, the same production team that threw an engagement party for a guy who was racist on a Real World season already, but somehow this same production team doesn't keep that enthusiasm for black couples. Isn't that interesting? You can throw an engagement party for a couple that ain't even together anymore. I mean, the chick cheated on that guy, got with another guy. The guy left her, got with another girl, left her, got with another girl. All right, it's a jiggy jungle in these streets. But we never see the same enthusiasm for black love the way we see it for white love on this show as well. So this contributes to the same issues. And I'm sure this also contributes to why Leroy and Cam did not play that much after 34. They took a break, came back one more time, and left again. How can this same company permaban D for being racially insensitive to black people while never rewarding Leroy for being a loyal soldier throughout all these years when he was subjected to racial insensitivity himself? Do you see the selective wokeness at play here? Camilla is Brazilian with an Asian last name of Nakagawa. The irony here is that production banned D as if she was Camilla. They completely rewrote the edit of Total Madness to give D the least amount of airtime possible. Why couldn't this same production team do this back then with Camilla then? It's because she won that season and they didn't mind what she did at that time. That's the truth of it. And TJ, we're gonna get, you know what? Let's let Leroy dive deeper into this, cause boy, he gonna start holding TJ, production, the whole nine. He gonna start holding all these people accountable, and rightfully so, cause all of them are enablers of this type of behavior.
And she's screaming out like, who are you talking about? And I'm kind of confused because I'm wondering like, what is she talking about and why is she in my room right now? So she comes in and says like, hey, who you're talking about? And I'm basically telling her like, hey, Camilla, you need to just kind of relax. And I wasn't talking to you, and just kind of leave. At this point, I can tell that Camilla is probably going to go off, but I'm trying to do everything I can to kind of diffuse the situation. So at one point in the video, I tell Camilla that she's drunk, because obviously she's drunk. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I need some help right now. So I asked Bananas, I said, can you tell me what she's talking about? And as I'm watching this, and I'm watching myself, I could tell that I was looking for like some type of backup, but nobody really knew what to do or say. And
now, this is my problem with you, Leroy. And I don't really have a problem with you, brother, but you a little too nice to some of your friends from this show. As you all continue to listen, you're going to hear Leroy subtly but surely try to cop pleas for Bananas. He has the smoke for production. He admits there's all these people around him who won't stand up for him, who won't have his back, but he never mentions how Bananas never had his back in front of Camilla. In fact, he makes it seem as if everyone just sat there and Bananas wasn't. And see, later on, we're really going to expose Bananas. Bananas really ain't shit in all of this. Because it's real easy after the fact to act like, I was so disgusted by what Camilla did. But you got to understand, Bananas is basically a production member by proxy. He is a producer who's allowed to play the game. If Camilla does what she does to Leroy, and Leroy's supposed to be one of his best friends, Bananas literally has the power right then and there to kick Camilla off the damn show. He ain't do a damn thing. Leroy, what does it say about your friends when they don't have your back, even when it makes all the sense in the world, too? How many seasons did you help Johnny win, Leroy? Now, please explain to us all how many times he helped you. In my opinion, Paulie did more for you in one season than Bananas did your whole challenge career. But that's just my opinion on it. But let's continue to hear Leroy explain the situation. But understand, when black people go through this in the workplace, we often feel the same amount as ostracized as Leroy feels here. Where it's like, whoa, y'all just saw what just happened to me. But all the other people are worried about money too. They can't afford to speak up and get into the same argument and or fight. So they're going to let it be. And the funniest part about this is Camilla's partner is Tony, a guy who used to get stupid sloppy drunk on this same show and do random stuff and lose his head, similar to Camilla. Tony ain't going to speak up though. That's his partner. He doesn't mind it. Tony was the same guy who grabbed Corey's Alfredo, threw it out the window. Then when Corey claps back, all of a sudden Tony's the victim. That's part of the subtle racism of this community too. Meanwhile, how many other fights after that have we seen over pizza? And no one clowns Josh, no one clowns KC, no one clowns CT like they clowned Corey then. What's the difference? Those three people ain't black. See, I'm here to show y'all how fake this community is with their outrage, because they will clown Corey for one thing, then have sympathy for a non-black person for the same damn thing. This is why Leroy was scared to even speak up. But luckily for Leroy, recency bias radio is here now, and I got your back, brother.
I just knew, like, man, this isn't gonna end well. So Camilla's cursing me out. She's telling me that I'm an idiot. I'm explaining to her that I feel bad for her because I do. I've watched Camilla for seasons go off on people, be drunk, go on rants, and I'm thinking like, damn, man, I really truly do feel bad for this girl because she really has a problem. And it wasn't to like antagonize her, to make her mad. I wanted to let her know how I felt. Like at that point, I'm telling her how I feel. I really feel bad for you. Wow. And at this point, she's talking about how many wins I have. You know, you never won before, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, whatever. And then she's like, you know what? You're a black. Wow. In my mind, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Someone that I work with is talking to me like this on camera, even though you're drunk. Like why does the color of my skin come out of your mouth? Like, why?
I'll tell you why the color of your skin matters. Once again, Camilla is from Brazil. I don't know much about her family, but I understand there's a lot of racial tension in South America. I highly urge all of you to do research on Argentina. Hmm? Argentina had a racial purge over the last 40 or 50 years. You'll be hard pressed to find anybody black inside that country. No, I'm legit serious here. And it's because they put into litigation, we need to get these black folks out of our country. This isn't me making stuff up. Do it on your own, the research. So understand, if South America has a country like that in Argentina, it's not shocking at all to me that a Brazilian woman like Camilla would have these type of feelings towards black people in general. It's not. But I need to provide that backstory to show you all once again, I know black history, and I know this world more than the average person that tries to explain these things to you that ain't even black, right? But I need to do these things to further back up Leroy, to show you all the context behind why Camilla's behavior is learned to back up what Leroy is trying to convey in his messaging.
Is that what you see when you talk to me, right? Whenever I see people and I argue with them, if I'm arguing with someone from another race, the last thing I'm going to call out is the color of their skin. So right there, I knew that this wasn't going to be good at all. In the video, I tell Camilla that she's going to be in tears for the way she spoke to me because I just knew it. It always happens. You know, people say certain things. They're so hype about it. They're feeling so much. F you, you black mother effer. This has happened to me so many times. And then the next day, or they're in tears about what happened. This isn't the first time that someone has said something about the color of my skin. I've had one of my closest friends, girlfriend, call me in my face. Like, just really go off on me. And then, you know, the tears come the next day. And
Well, hold on, Leroy. If one of your closest friends' girlfriend said that about you, your closest friend was probably saying that about you too, brother. And that's my thing. I think you need to be smarter with who you call your friend moving forward, especially after this situation. There's going to be a lot of people giving you kudos that ain't black, but they're doing it to make themselves seem like if they were there, they would have defended you in front of Camilla, knowing damn well they would have chose the money over defending you too. That needs to be stated. But outside of that, Coach, I get exactly what you're trying to convey here. I get what you're saying. She's going to cry about it. But see, I'm happy you brought that up, brother. Because recency bias radio is the one who exposed the white girl crying technique on Big Brother. I'm the one who showed you all that this is a tactic only non-black women can administer to make people allow them to get away with what their past transgressions. Camilla is the type to get stupid drunk, have a ramen noodle cup nani moment, then she cries about it, and because she has the complexion for the protection for the collection, people then go, oh, she's beating up herself enough about this, Leroy. Can you let it go? Isn't that what Josh Martinez does? Exposed. I'm connecting these dots, and I'm showing y'all this stuff is by design. You gotta open your third eye.
I hate that. I hate when that happens. The tears come, and you're sorry. You're not sorry. Sober, You're not sorry. Drunken thoughts and verbiage is a sober heart. I'm sorry.
Facts.
And as Camilla is singling me out for being black and the color of my skin, it's not as if I don't already feel singled out because of the fact that I'm in a room filled with white cast members, that they're all just staring at me in the middle of this room and no one is saying anything. I feel embarrassed.
This just further makes me appreciate the cookout, by the way. A group who could outnumber non-black people and not make them feel like this, right? They played the game with class and they still dominated. I just want that to be stated. All right, I just want that to be stated. There's a way to go about doing these things, and for whatever reason, we have to always be the bigger person, and it drives us mad because we're always held to this morality standard, whereas non-black people don't ever have to be held to that standard. CT never has to be held to this standard, and he still is loved for it. Oh, he's a great dad. Oh, him and his wife are going through some things. Let's rig 2 seasons for him. Let's get him richer. That'll save his marriage. That's literally what black people see. But once again, if we say these things, we're just labeled haters. But okay, let's keep it moving.
I'm shocked. I'm
We've been
upset.
a body people today.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, can someone that's in a position of power please come in and help me? Like, I'm literally being attacked right now in front of everybody who I work with, and no one is doing anything to help. And not even necessarily the cast members, because they're just as in shock too, but producers or security at this point. Like, once those words came out of her mouth about the color of my skin, and you could tell that she was coming out of a place of hate, that someone should have stepped in. That's so unacceptable. And the fact that no one didn't.
Well said.
I feel like MTV, you dropped the ball. So the next part of this video is where I see Johnny Bananas, who's a dear friend of mine, who I love to death.
See, this Johnny Banana stuff, man, it's ticking me off. We're going to get into this a little bit later. But Leroy, I need you to understand something, man. You got to stop allowing these entities to use you. And I think you stepping away from this show was an admission that you realized you were being used. Let's keep it real. Production used Cam and Leroy last season to make the brand of the challenge seem pro-black. It was the first time we ever saw a black alliance dominate the show. But somehow CT still won. And the most racially ambiguous girl somehow won. How does that make any sense? They came back, put on a show, then left. This also explains why Leroy waited so long before exposing them. If he had done this too soon after Double Agents, production could have changed the edit just to get even with Leroy and Cam. It's bad enough this show doesn't have live feeds. If it did, fans would have more trust in the process. This is why I kept covering BB23 and boycotted Spies, Lies, and Allies myself. And boy, do I feel I feel smarter now for boycotting this season now that Leroy has completely unloaded the flamethrower on production. Because now I feel like I'm doing my best to make sure the ratings plummet to show that Leroy and Cam were needle movers. And I think every fan watching this video needs to boycott the rest of that season if they're still watching it to support Leroy in our own way. But that's my thoughts there. Now, Big T was just given a second chance to stay on Spies, Lies, and Allies last week and wanted to go home. What does it say about this game that so many black players prefer being at home than in it? It says to me these players are getting fed up with making a Prejudice production team look good. Now do you see why MTV brought in so many new faces? It's because the old guard is burnt out or pissed off. It's also because rookies have less leverage and are more easy to manipulate by producers. When you're a rookie, you are most concerned with being brought back again. This is why a rookie like Asaf chose to call out Wes the first chance he got in Total Madness. He was clout chasing and trying to create a rival for the future. Vets don't respect rookies who overstep their boundaries, though. So this forces the rookies to bend the knee to vets in the hopes of eventually becoming a vet themselves. It's like a hazing process. You got to understand, MTV does this because they are cheap. They want rookies because in their minds, they are the new twist each season, the new wrinkle, the new variable. Also, they probably cost the least amount to bring. But if every season's strategy is centered around guaranteeing. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, my phone just tweaked out. But if every season strategy is centered around guaranteeing rookies go home first, it isn't a twist. It's just filler for a quota of episodes they have to clear with Viacom. So when you really break this down, let's really talk money here. These rookies are brought in for ad revenue because they have less than a 5% chance of winning the season. They're really only here so the season is pushed an extra 6 episodes so they can get more money. That's what it's really here for. They never really have a chance of winning, though. And they rarely are needle movers. So this is why production started looking for rookies from different countries. They're trying to manufacture needle movers because they no longer have Swaley, Leroy, or Cam. You see that? Isn't it very interesting how Turbo created the blueprint for this by winning the game fresh off of Survivor Turkey, and yet, or I don't know which season of Survivor I thought it was Survivor Turkey. But if I'm wrong, I'm sorry about that. But isn't it interesting how Turbo, fresh off of Survivor, came to this show, could barely speak English, won War of the Worlds, and then he gets permabanned for matching Jordan's energy. It's almost as if production did not want Turbo around for long. When you really do the math, it's like, thank you for giving us a new market in Turkey, but you served your purpose. Now go home. Why do you think they have these people from Romania now? They have Nigeria, people from Nigeria now. It's all to build the brand. And I'm not mad at that. Build the brand. But don't keep rigging the game for the same vet pets as you do all this other stuff. Because it's making the fan lose interest in your show altogether. Understand, it was a way of trying to snatch their country's viewership by being inclusive. Smart, but when Turbo was the one who made all of this possible, it makes me understand Leroy more because Turbo doesn't get the credit he deserves either. Simply because he stood up for himself in ways Leroy didn't back then with Camilla. You see how this comes home full circle? Turbo defended himself then. He's a direct example of what happens when you defend your own self, when you defend your honor and don't allow a man to disrespect you. Turbo's never been brought back. So this implies if Leroy would have stood on his square to defend himself and his people, this implies production and MTV would have perma-banned him and he never gets to fall in love with Cam. And wouldn't that have been a bigger L than the immediate L that he took with Camilla? You know? So all in all, if I had to call it, Leroy still came out of here looking like a king. But with that said, something needs to be said for patience and tact. And in my opinion, Leroy is showcasing a lot of tact here with this video. He has a lot of jump cuts in it, clearly, because he doesn't want to say anything too disrespectful. He's trying to play it safe to a certain degree, but he's still holding people accountable, and I respect it. You know? Sure, Turbo and Amber B won their first seasons, but Amber was a fluke, and Turbo is now banned because he upset the apple cart by G-checking the Apex Productions pet. So the newcomers capable of making the game interesting are coincidentally the same rookies production seem to always keep from coming back. This is also done by design to keep certain veterans in control of the strategy from season to season, and as vets get wiser, you start to see them just show up for a check because even they know production won't let them win. This is why so many players that serve no real purpose always get invited back because they know their role. Josh. Now do you see what's going on here? Every season is literally like this. And please tell me if I'm wrong, y'all. Comment below and tell me if I'm wrong. But this is it. If you're going to create a GIF or a video of why the challenge has fallen off, this is why. Because every season follows the same damn pattern. The challengers target rookies. Then the vet pets somehow skate by as the non-vet pets target each other over the real threats to win, handing the game to an apex vet pet with relative ease. That's how every season has played out for the last 4 seasons almost. This isn't interesting to most fans, and that's why Challenge All-Stars is more compelling to us than 37. And see, this situation exposes an even deeper problem. Leroy is going to get into how he allowed Camilla to stay with him in Vegas. Now, I don't want to dive too deeply into this until Leroy discusses it first himself, so let's dive deeper into Leroy's video.
As Camilla's about to exit the room after her racist rant, he throws a pillow at her I was just so angry that she would talk to me that way. Camilla's someone who's actually stayed at my house before in Las Vegas. You know, there was a time she was passing through coming from Nebraska, and she stayed at my house as like a lot of cast members do when they come to the city. And so to notice somebody who I've let stay at my house and spend some time with would talk to me that way, I just was like, it was unreal. So to see Johnny do that and hit her with that pillow, part of me was definitely happy, but I knew that, you know, now it's probably going to turn it up even more.
Hold on. You mean to tell me Johnny didn't speak up for you, but because he hit her with a pillow, that shows he's your best friend? Bro, Johnny Bananas is a producer. He can do more than hit her with a pillow. He can hit her with a restraining order. That's how much power Johnny Bananas has, y'all. This is literally this is like giving Captain America credit for being able to hold his shield. I'm going to give Captain America credit for saving the world, not holding the shield. We expect him to hold the shield. But we also expect him to save the world. Johnny Bananas has made how much money off of this show? To the point where he has his own, what is it called? First Access. I don't know what the show is on NBC, but he got some show that pops up. The man getting buku money. Buku money. Because he also has the complexion for the protection for the collection, by the way. But all he could do was speak up for you to production here and there, but wouldn't speak to Camilla's face, and then he throws a pillow and that suffices? And see, let's dive deeper. Let's dive deeper into the whole Camilla needing Leroy. She stayed with this man, okay? And see, this is the deeper problem. Leroy allowed Camilla to stay at his home in Vegas. It's crazy to think someone you gave shelter to could be racist towards you. It's crazy to think a woman who has won the challenge before is asking someone who has never won for a place to lay her head. But what isn't crazy to me is how all this got covered up. I'll never forget the way Zach, Bananas, and Laurel treated Leroy for flipping to work with Paulie and Cara during 34. I'll never forget that because they tried to make Leroy feel guilty for looking out for himself, even though all of them knew they didn't do a damn thing to have his back when some racist shit went down in the past. Imagine that. The selfish people around you, who wouldn't even defend you in front of bigotry, still expect unwavering loyalty from you after the fact. This further exposes the systemically toxic environment of the challenge. It's like quid pro quo, what's going on. It's almost as if they expected Leroy to be a good old boy the rest of his challenge career and continue to help the same production vet pets win even after Camilla did what she did, proving she was a vet pet who got protection. Shouldn't Leroy hate all of y'all because clearly y'all all are part of a secret group he can't be invited in because he's too black? See, Bananas needs to understand the type of energy he gives off by implying Leroy should still be loyal to him no matter what, even though all he did was throw a pillow when some racist stuff happened. Nah, bruh. From where I'm from, you enabled bigotry because you didn't exert your real power. And see, that's my real problem with you, Bananas. We'll get into a little bit later, but I'm gonna wait till later. Save it for later, Dave. I got some stuff to say about Bananas because I don't like this. Oh man, I'm gonna leave it alone. That proves a lot of these players saw nothing wrong with what Camilla did as it happened. They are just using revisionist history now to exclude themselves from the conflict altogether. I'll get into this more in detail later. All right. Leroy then mentions how Camilla called him a black pussy because he never won the game. He then brings up how he hates the way people can say hurtful things and then cry after, expecting those tears to be the apology they failed to give. I appreciate this, but I've already mentioned this. And Camilla is another person who is of Latin descent, similar to Josh, so understand that they're picking by archetype here. But I want to get back into Leroy's video now. Let's further break down some more because when it comes to the banana stuff, I'm going to say that for a little of the backlog. We got some more stuff we want to talk about. But I do want to say this, though. Look around. MTV is rapidly losing all of their black talent that fans cared about due to their own incompetence. And for what? Just to rig more seasons to CT? That shit is boring. 36 was only lit because we wanted Leroy to walk away on top with his woman Cam. Now look at the ratings of this current season with no Leroy, Cam, Bailey, or Swaggy. It's night and day compared to where it was. And that's because fans are catching on to a pattern of blatant rigging. Mm. Now we'll get into the pillow gate of it all. Here we go.
So, as I watched the video also, when Camilla gets hit with the pillow, she turns around, she's asking who hit her with the pillow. She immediately picks the pillow up and she violently throws the pillow at me. Violently hits me with the pillow. Excuse me.
But see, what you got to understand about this, Leroy, is Camilla was picking her battles wisely there too. She not gonna fight with no Johnny Bananas, someone with actual production pool. She gonna fight with you because she know production could give up about you. Honestly, I gotta be real with you, bruh. I probably would have walked away from the show after this season because this is uncalled for. But I commend you for sticking through it, because in my opinion, brother, you have broken down barriers for all black men with this, man. You are a legend from this day forward. I mean, you were a legend to me anyway, but now you're pretty much goated, Leroy. That needs to be stated too. I want you to have your roses, brother. You know what I mean? Because this took some courage right here. But let's dive deeper into this pillow stuff. You know what I mean? Dive deeper into the pillow talk. Pause, but I'm still saying.
That right there is enough. That right there should be enough for her to get sent home. As if like
Absolutely.
What she said to me wasn't bad enough. Now you have assaulted me. So let's continue to keep watching. And as I watch myself as security's exiting her out, there's me doing my interview and I'm saying that I'm arguing with the person who has the power to throw me in. Leroy, why are you thinking about the game right now? Like, why do you care that she has the power to throw you in? You should be saying, this girl needs to get out of here. She needs to get sent home. But I'm so terrified to really speak how I want to that I gotta basically kind of like tiptoe around it. And I feel like it shows. It really shows that I was lost back then. Like, I literally was thinking about money more than I was thinking about what's right and morals and everything that black people has been through. And as I watch this, I'm disappointed in myself, but a lot of me, I think that I probably didn't know any better.
And that's okay.
As I watch this, I like to say, Leroy, I forgive you. I forgive you for not.
I can tell this brother has had some real good therapy, and this is what black people in general need more of. We need more therapy. We need to get through the stages of grief. We need to get to acceptance. We need to be able to move on with our lives, and we need to be able to live a life we can be happy about, even if our past has some things we're not proud of, right? What I see from Leroy is exponential growth from a maturation standpoint. I see a guy who's man enough to admit he was wrong, who's man enough to forgive his former self. Do y'all not understand how hard these type of things are to do? You know, man, the respect for this man is just exponentially growing, man. And see, now that he's finally mentioned the whole pillow thing, right? We got to dive deeper into this. We got to, man. Let's keep it real. We've seen people disqualified for less. You know, what is it about Camilla that allows her to hit someone violently with a pillow, be racist on top of that, and still have TJ laughing like, hey, pick who you want to send into elimination. Who cares? It says that that MTV has had a problem for a while now, you know, but patrons already know I've exposed how the disqualification rules only apply to non-pets. Faisal got DQ'd for touching Josh, but Josh doesn't get DQ'd for throwing drinks on people and pushing them. Camilla didn't get DQ'd for racist remarks, but Ashley calling Josh moist got her instantly sent home during 37. These rules are a joke because there is no consistency in them. How is a black man expected to play this game at the highest level if the rules aren't concrete and instead made abstract, based on interpretation? If we can't depend on the officiating to be fair, we can't win the game because we are already vastly outnumbered, especially now that Swaggy, Leroy, and Theo are all gone. All we have left now is what, Nelson and Corey, basically, because Darrell is on All Stars. You know? Then Leroy admits being scared to the point scared to point out the elephant in the room because he was still in game mode, believing Camilla being able to send him in gives him the authority to punk him. And this is what Leroy regrets so much, not applying more pressure and sticking up for himself. I don't want Leroy beating himself up for this, though, because at the end of the day, it's hard quitting a good paying job. Plenty of you watching right now might have a job that pays less money than what Leroy was making on that show. But would you risk your job right now during these hard times? Probably not. So everything is a relative situation, right? Like everything is based off certain things that we'll never be able to understand because we don't all share the exact same life experiences one to one. But I do know that I have dealt with racism at the workplace enough to know and relate to what Leroy is trying to convey here. And that's why I respect it so much. And from that perspective, I truly empathize with this brother. But I also want to give him the roses for being smart enough to have a plan. If I'm not mistaken, Leroy has an amazing business as a barber. So at least this brother withstood that trauma for a purpose to invest in himself, to create a black business. This is why Leroy is a legend to many black people who follow the challenge, and this is also why non-black fans like Leroy as well. Leroy was always a straight-up guy and a straight-up player, and that's why I can see how holding back his true feelings with Camilla up until now conflicted with his straight-up persona. So I get where you're coming from wholeheartedly, brother. Trust me, if there's anyone in this community who can relate to what you are going through right now, I can, brother. And I just want to be the one who gives the proper commentary on your commentary. Because I know no one else is going to have a video like this. I mean, this is already a classic because I've already said way too many things that's on point. But let's continue. Y'all ain't even got to the bananas bashing of it all. But let's continue.
Not standing up for yourself and really taking a stand on what's right. I forgive you, my brother. I know you were going through a lot back then and you didn't know where to go. But this Leroy today, I forgive you. Now at this point, as I'm watching the video, Camilla has exited the room. She's down by the stairs. She said it's all about black like Leroy, or whatever the case she said. You guys will see in the video. And this is all coming from hatred. You don't just say things like that. Like that is like deep rooted. And I didn't even see that until I watched it on tape when the show came out, and I was just mind blown. Like this girl really is really out of control. Now she's downstairs. She's picking up weights, and she's cursing, and she's coming up towards me. She wants to come up the stairs. She's cursing. So at that point, you could tell that she's being very violent. Who knows what she was going to do with those weights? You could tell that she's out of control, but they're just kind of like letting it happen. Like security stepping in, but it's just like she should have already been exited out, whether she had shoes on or not. Like, where is the protection, right? Where is the protection? First,
I tell you where the protection was, Leroy. The protection is only given to the apex pets who are non-black. And that's my point, right? She was provided the protection from you. That's the fucked up part about all of this, y'all. You got to read between the lines of what Leroy really telling us right now. He's telling us she's the aggressor, but she's getting protection from me. Not the other way around. She's the one allowed to go downstairs, pick up weights, and what do you think she was going to do with them weights? She was going to bring them to Leroy's front door and threaten to hit him with them, throw them at him. We know the game. So producers probably kept her from getting back up there with Leroy, but they weren't protecting Leroy. They were protecting Camilla from getting herself DQ'd. See, you got to really see what's going on here. Let a black man trick himself into DQing himself. They're never going to protect that black man from making a mistake. Hell no, they already don't want a brother winning anyway. You see what they did to Darrell with Yes, but that's neither here nor there. Let's keep it moving.
First of all, she should have already been escorted out of there once she started talking about the color of my skin. Once she hit me with the pillow, like people are moving slow. Like I don't really understand what's going on or why this is happening. But you know, this is the world that we live in, people. This is the stuff that blacks have to deal with every day. And
talk about it.
While I'm filming this, I'm just thinking to myself, you know what, Lee, it's all good. You handled it the right way. Because if I was to start yelling at her or cursing at her or anything of that nature, the 6'1", 200-pound black man, now I'm gonna be the angry black man. That's what we always get whenever we express our feelings. You know, they say we're aggressive. Well, I handled myself extremely well right there. I was very calm. I didn't say anything to provoke or have her try to come at me even more. And I just know that if I were to start cursing at her, everything would have got flipped. And that's not fair. Why do blacks always have to, take the high road or turn the other cheek? Why couldn't I sit up there and say, hey, you're going to be going home tonight? But I felt as if I didn't have to. I felt like, you know what, Lee, you did what you had to do. And the network, they're going to see this and they're going to say, they're not standing for this. Because you know why? Every time I get a call from MTV, they're always like, oh my God, Leroy, we love you.
This is exactly what Howard and Candace thought during BB15. They thought there's no way production is going to allow this. But time went along. Two black people got sent home back to back. And before you know it, one of the most racist players made it to Final Two. And didn't the same thing happen during this challenge season of Dirty 30, where Camilla won that season, made Final Two? See how these Viacom umbrella shows seem to always reward racist players? Interesting to me. But we have a fan base that tries to create the argument the Cookout is somehow racist. All right, I'm not going to make this too much about Big Brother, but my point still stands. At the end of the day, it's a lot of projection going on. And there's a lot of people terrified of them getting their just desserts for a lot of the things they thought was cool entertainment for years. Understand, there's a lot of fans who thought what Leroy was subjected to was cool. Those are the fans that enjoy this era because this era is rigged for CT, and they enjoy this era because no one black has any shot of winning anything, right? Well, besides maybe Amber, who's already won, but that's neither here nor there. Let's continue.
And we can't wait for you to come back and film. You're such a joy to work with. So I'm thinking like, yeah, she's out of there. I'm not working on anything, but let's see what happens. Cast members are in their interviews and they're supporting me, saying that they think that Camilla's rude and she's a nasty person. And you could just see it. I mean, this has been this girl for the past 8-9 years of her doing this. So she goes upstairs.
But here's the thing, though. A whole bunch of people just saying she's nasty and rude ain't enough. If all of these people can clearly see there is hatred in her heart and she is using the skin color of your skin color to bash you further, there needs to be more things said in those confessionals that imply what she did was racist. What production does is they get their pets in training and their current pets to say the minimal amount of information to where they act as if they don't support what Camilla did, but at the same time, ain't none of them going against her either. That moment didn't turn all of them into targeting her the rest of the season so she couldn't win, did it? That's my point. It's all grandstanding, yo. That's why, to a certain extent, you got to take some of these confessionals with a grain of salt, too. Because some of these things people are being ushered into saying by producers. Oh, we need this soundbite. Can you give it? That type of thing. So I'm not giving nobody credit for saying Camilla's disgusting if they weren't the same one stepping up and defending Leroy's honor when she was ramen noodle cup 90'd out. If you're not going to defend him in the moment, I don't want to see you acting like that wasn't cool after the fact. Because that tells me you were okay with it if you could benefit from what Camilla did in some way, shape, or form. So she's not that disgusting to you because you're just as disgusting for trying to benefit off of her disgustingness. But once again, I'm too logical.
She starts breaking and destroying stuff, which is also showing very violent behavior, cursing out security, and it's just belligerent. And that's one thing that I hate, and I was telling Carl Maria, I was saying I'm not going to talk to her, and I didn't talk to her for the rest of the season, you guys, but you can't get drunk and then say you don't remember and you blacked out. That's not going to work anymore. we're not taking that no more. If you said something racist and you forgot about it, or you were blacked out, you don't remember, it's already in your heart. So it was either going to come out. And for me, I think to myself, while I was in that moment, and I'm the only black person in the room, and all these white folks are around me, I'm saying to myself, is this what you want to say to me when you get mad? When you really get angry? Is that how you really feel? That, when everything is cool, when Lee is cool, everything is fine and dandy. But as soon as you're angry with Lee, you really want to try to hit me below the belt and say things about the color of my skin and make racial slurs. And it just isn't right. It's not right in a work environment. It's not right in any environment. I want to give a huge shout out to Jimmy, because the things that she was saying, the way she stood up, she said Camilla was so disrespectful. Black men have to go through enough in society, and she doesn't have time for anybody who's racist. Goodbye, girl.
I'm not really here for all the Jimmy love, because Jimmy completely played two black men to try to help a non-black man win All-Star Season 1. So from my perspective, Jimmy learned from Camilla, but that's neither here nor there. We got to stop giving people credit for just saying stuff. Where was Jimmy at when Camilla was popping off? Huh? Jimmy wasn't matching that energy either, right? Listen, Leroy, I get it. You're trying your best to show the world that you're not against all white people, so you're trying your best to give credit to certain allies here and there. From a political standpoint, you're not trying to burn every bridge in sight. I can respect that. But with that said, you ain't even got to be mentioning some of these people if it's just between you and Camilla in production, right? Like, why single out these people as the few tokens that deserve some credit when we've seen context in the future of these people being insensitive towards black people? At the end of the day, in my opinion, he was better off leaving the Jimmies and Bananas out of this. Because all he really did was open up Pandora's box to us using a magnifying glass more on those two players and realizing, both of them a little funny style as well. But we could continue.
Jimmy, when I look into this camera, and I want to tell you this from the bottom of my heart, me watching that and hearing those words come from you meant so much then and even more now. One thing that I do know is that you are a true ally, and we need more out there like you. The first part of being an ally is being able to speak up and cut people off.
Nehemiah would disagree.
Also, as I watch this, Brittany, you're another one who stepped up and said something.
Cyrus would disagree.
CT, you're another one who stood up and said something. Bananas, 1,000%. The way you articulated your interviews and spoke about everything that happened, I can't thank you guys enough. And Tony as well. I'm sure everybody has something to say in their interviews, and I can't thank you enough. So, as you're watching this, whoever's the higher up at MTV, and you're looking at this footage, wouldn't that tell you to say, wait a minute, we gotta get rid of this girl. We have to send her home. That's what I'm thinking as I see this, she has to go. But let's keep watching and see what happens. So it's the next morning as I'm watching here, and Bananas, Cara, and CT and Jordan are all having a conversation about what went on. And I come inside the room, and once again, it's just me, right? It's just me, big, black dude with, his white coworkers. And they're all saying, hey, bravo for what you did last night. And as I'm watching my...
And I'm glad Leroy is saying this, because me being one of the few straight black men who are content creators in the reality TV spectrum, I know this feeling all too well. I get those same looks, where it's but I understand the game though. I don't really take it personal. I understand these people have no incentive to help me at all. And this is why I preach black people being on code, so we continuously help each other as well. It's the same thing, just in reverse. How am I going to preach one thing and then take it completely offensive when someone does the other? I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like black people are on code in response to white people being on code a lot more. But with that said, though, Leroy just said he used to talk to Cara about Camilla, and Cara admitted Camilla wasn't shit. But the minute he gets around Cara, CT, Bananas, and I forgot who else he mentioned in that conversation, All of a sudden, no one wanted to talk about them ain't being shit no more. So he gave Bananas credit, he gave Kara credit, and this is not in me in any way, shape, or form dissing Kara, because I do believe Kara really has Leroy's back based off future seasons after this. Um, but at the end of the day, half of the people he just mentioned did not think it was a point of emphasis to bring it up again to Leroy. Now, to be fair to them, they probably thought it was awkward bringing this back up. I don't want to make this brother relive this. And I don't want to be part of this situation at all either, in case Camilla does get disciplined. I don't want to be accused of instigating in any way, shape, or form. So, from that perspective, I'm going to provide some rope for some of these players. But with that said, Leroy just got done giving Jimmy some credit, just got done giving Kara and Banana some credit, but even he noticed Kara and Bananas are different towards him around certain other vet pets. This needs to be stated as well, because once again, vet pets do not want to piss off other vet pets. It's like a fraternity or a sorority or something. Leroy was never included in this group. I don't know why, but he was never included in this group. And he felt that in this moment. And that's what he's pointing out here.
Myself in the video, I'm so uncomfortable, but what I try to do is make a joke out of what's going on because I don't really want to offend the people that are sitting there. But why is that, Lee? Why can't you really speak how you feel? What are you so afraid of? Like, say what's on your mind. You have the floor. And just looking at me back then, I could tell it's kind of like when people laugh at their own pain. You kind of like want to soften the blow. You know, when things happen, black people try to make it seem like it's not that bad and it's okay and we go through this.
That's why black people oftentimes are the best comedians, because we have the most pain. So we have the best jokes. It sounds messed up, but it's the truth. I mean, Kevin Hart has a special called Laugh at My Pain. And black people, we too often have to disarm non-black people to be more comfortable around us, when in reality, we the ones who are uncomfortable around them. But the only way for us to feel more comfortable around them is to make them feel more comfortable. It's a constant game of having to prove ourselves to people who will never prove ourselves to, or who will never be accepted by. And Leroy was in this constant hamster wheel. It's sad, but I'm happy the brother has woke up out of it. Because other black men who play the challenge in the future can learn from this. And that's why this is an educational video, in my opinion.
Yeah, we go through this, but we shouldn't have to. At this very moment, Lee, you had the floor to say, I'm not putting up with this. And I didn't. And for years, this has been weighing on my conscience. For years, it's been weighing on my conscience. Like, damn, Lee, you dropped the ball. You had the time to say something, and I didn't. But I forgive you now. I forgive myself now for that. I forgive myself for being unaware. I forgive myself for being a pushover. I forgive myself for letting things slide. I forgive myself for choosing money. I forgive myself for choosing fear over what is right. I don't know how much time I have left in this life, but from here on out, especially when it comes to racism, I'm 1,000,000,000% gonna stand up and have a voice and be loud about how I feel. That doesn't mean I have to be aggressive. That doesn't mean I have to be violent against somebody, but I'm gonna stand up for what's right. And I feel that anybody that's going through this in the workplace or at home or with family members or friends, step up and say something. Like, don't let money overshadow what's right, because you'll end up like how I've been for the past 5-6 years, beating yourself up over it. And now I want to talk about how I truly feel.
And see, this is why recency bias radio was created. I got tired of seeing no one say what needs to be said, and eventually one day I said, I'll be the one to say it. The rest was history. I unloaded the forbidden jitsu on society, and ever since people been trying to copy me with the Sharingan. I'm just saying what it is. And I appreciate the fact that Leroy, I believe, even if Leroy don't know who I am, him saying what he's saying in this video tells me he even appreciates the recency bias radios of the world. The people who will provide a black perspective for a predominantly white audience and get them to see that the complicated is very simple if you just scrap your confirmation biases at the door. And at the end of the day, Leroy was very respectful. He was looking around. He kept seeing how I'm the only black guy that keeps being brought back. What am I doing right? What are those black men doing wrong? I'm sure this played a role in why he did not want to upset the apple cart himself, coach. He was getting the amenities and the privileges that every black man was not given at that time when he was on that show. He felt special. They manipulated him with the little tokens or the little trinkets they were handing him. They tried to manipulate him into thinking, hey, you can't afford to speak up for yourself as a black man. Look at the way that we treat you compared to other black men. Do you want to be just like them? Come on, man, let this go. You know how much we're paying you to deal with this trauma? This is nothing. Do you need a psychiatrist or something? We'll get you that, but that's about it. Come on, y'all. That's basically the type of energy that Leroy was subjected to here. People were not taking him seriously. It was almost like he was the boy who cried wolf, even though the cameraman recorded the whole fight. It was like, oh, baby, hey, man, we already deleted the tapes, man. Why don't you do us a favor and act like it never happened? You know? And just like he said, there are black people who deal with this every day. Now, granted, I'm sure there are people from all ethnicities that deal with this every day, too. I do not want to just make this a black issue. But this is a black man who's the victim, so we gonna make this a black issue because this is a black channel.
And this is just
That's
me
all I
being
gotta
honest
say.
and being vulnerable. Like, watching this really makes me sick. Parts of it makes me sad. Parts of me is embarrassed of how I was. But I'm no longer going to wear this weight on my shoulders because a lot of this was out of my control and I should have had some help. So let me continue to keep watching and see if help ever comes. So I'm now sitting in the living room and Camilla is coming into the house. She has no shoes on. She still has this look on her face. It's not a look like she's been crying. She looks angry. And I'm thinking to myself that she's going to beeline towards me and she's going to be crying and she's going to be apologizing about everything that happened last night. And no, she doesn't. She just walks into her room where there's Nelson and Hunter sitting here. And Hunter even has to leave out of the room because he's like, man, this feels so uncomfortable. And Nelson is like, he's out of here. So now we're about to prepare for deliberation. And the scene goes to where I'm in my room, where I share a room with Tony because Camilla and Tony won the challenge. And still, she didn't come in the room to ask for me. She asked to speak to Tony. And I'm standing right there. You can see me. The same black guy who you were cursing out. It's super obvious. I'm the only black man in the room. And you say nothing to me. And I'm just kind of mind blown. And I make a comment saying to Tony, I'm like, hey, man, hold it down. And, you know, trying to be funny. Another part of me trying to be funny and try to soften the blow to make everybody else in the room feel comfortable with what's going on. I need to be speaking up. At that point, I should have stopped her and said, hey, where you going? But you know what? I'm basically trying to figure out how this is all going to work out. So as she's having this conversation with Tony right now, she's basically asking, hey, what, you know, how this happened last night and, you know, what went on. And now she's saying that, you know, she's sorry for what she did. And the key thing that stuck out in this, Camilla says, I don't know why I'm the way I am. Is it how I was raised? That's exactly why you are the way you are. Because that's...
As Trey Songz once said, yup. Let's keep it a bean.
exactly how you were raised. That is taught. Racism is a taught behavior. No one comes out of their mother's womb and looks at the color of someone else's skin and say that they don't like that person. That's a learned behavior, whether you learn it from TV, whether you learn it from friends, or whether you learn it from your family. So you already said, Camilla, exactly why you are this way. And you know it. You know exactly why you're that way. But it's funny to hear her say that because she's basically giving you the answer of why she is the way she is. And she's in her interview saying that, you know, she doesn't like... Now, mind you guys, as she's talking to Tony, she's crying.
But here's the thing, though. It really showcases the coward in Camilla. You make a mistake, so you're going to blame your family for it? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a grown-ass woman with thousands of dollars in the bank before she won this game, blaming her family for why she got drunk and said, called someone a black pussy. That ain't on your family. That's on you. Now, granted, yes, your family can teach you some your horrible living habits. But I believe when people grow up into adulthood, they make decisions for themselves. There are certain things my parents wanted me to be, I refused to be. When I got to college and I was on my own, I started doing more of what I wanted to do and less of what they wanted me to do. You know what I'm saying? So, at the end of the day, to an extent, yes, I'll admit this is learned behavior. But after a certain point, this is behavior you decided to hold on to, which is different from just blaming your family. After a certain point, you got to admit you like the shit that you learned, so you held on to the rhetoric. It's so easy to scapegoat your family, the people who aren't on TV, that we can't connect the dots on chronologically or tangibly. To me, it's cowardice. It's her way of trying to place the blame on others and trying to sidestep the altercation itself. This is why she didn't apologize, but she had the heart to mention her family being culprits. If she will walk past you to talk to Tony and won't apologize to you, then she's telling you she saw nothing wrong in what she did. I'm willing to bet she only blamed it on her family because production wanted her to apologize, and the only thing middle ground wise they could agree on was her blaming it on something. And producers probably thought that would be enough to make Leroy accepting of it. Oh, let's just chalk this off to learned behavior, and Leroy will understand why you did it, and he'll think of it as less of you being the problem and more of Brazil being the problem. That's what they were trying to do in a nutshell, but I've already went ahead and debunked this. This was all agenda based, and at the end of the day, I'm happy Leroy saw through it.
She's sorry, so she says. When she walks into this deliberation room, we're all sitting in the living room, the look on her face, and I want you guys to go back and really watch it and dissect the episode I am. The look on her face is like someone did something to her. She's angry. And we're all just sitting there and we're quiet. So at this point, I'm like, cool, TJ's about to come in and TJ's gonna bring up what happened last night. Because as you guys know, anytime there's a massive blow up or some type of physical violence or something, TJ, the first order of business, he says, let's talk about what happened last night. So I'm like, cool, she's gonna have this apology, but she's going home, and cool, MTV has my back, like, you know.
TJ, you looking real funny style. And see, I've told people from the start, TJ be doing a lot of weird stuff. Like a few weeks ago when Fessy got DQ'd. You heard him. He said, Esther, uh, you're a rookie. You don't know any better. So you can stay. Josh, you should know better. You're embarrassing yourself, you're embarrassing your family, and you're embarrassing your friends. But I guess Josh could stay. Oh, but Fessy, you touched someone. You're gone. You have 15 minutes to pack your stuff. That was the moment when Fessy felt like a black man. Exposed. He definitely was treated a little differently than Josh was, wasn't he? They both touched each other, but somehow Faisal touching Josh was breaking the rules, but Josh throwing drinks and touching Faisal, that wasn't against the rules. Or somehow Josh is viewed as being the equivalent to a rookie just because he got into another fight. None of this makes any damn sense. None of it. But the way production dances around keeping Josh around but letting Faisal go so CT can have a season rigged for him easier was all by design. And that's what y'all need to understand. These things are done if they benefit the win conditions the production team always had on their minds when they picked the cast itself. Okay, let's pick these rookies. Yeah, these rookies will go early. All right, bet. Now we need the right amount of returning vets that won't go after CT immediately. Okay, let's get him. Let's get them. That's what goes on. I'm telling y'all what it is, and I'm not trying to act like CT is not a good challenger. I'm just saying Rocky Marciano was a good boxer. That doesn't mean there wasn't fights rigged for him.
I know that no one really did nothing the night before, but at least this is to be the time she goes home. The look on Camilla's face before TJ comes in, I want you guys to really look at that. She looks so pissed. And TJ walks through the door. Let's see what he says. Wow. TJ says immediately the first thing out of his mouth. As you know, Camilla and Tony won the challenge before, so they get to vote. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, what the hell is going on? Like, no one is about to talk about what happened? And I'm just like, imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine everything I went through last night, and TJ comes in and he says nothing about it. Now, I want you guys to understand that TJ is an ally. TJ is somebody who I'm very close with, and him and I have had countless conversation about race in America, things that go on. Like, I genuinely love TJ. He's one of the best humans I've ever met in my life. But you guys must understand that TJ is doing a job, and he's only saying what the producers tell him to say. Now, that's the crazy part.
Well, hold up, Leroy. Oh, wait. You talking real fast. A lot of jump cuts. I got to break this down. I got to urban translate for this brother. He's trying to make sure he doesn't burn too many bridges. So allow me to explain what you can't really afford to explain necessarily. What he's telling y'all is he was forced to make a business decision to stay on this show by letting Camilla get a pass. TJ was forced to give Camilla a pass as well as a business decision because his higher-ups did not want this racist moment forced into the edit by then DQing Camilla, who won that challenge comp that episode. Understand, we know how these episodes are put together. You win a comp, then you deliberate to determine who goes in to face each other in the elimination competition. By Camilla and Tony winning that comp, it would be very difficult for production in their minds to DQ her, find Tony another partner um, as some late wild card to throw into the game or something. It would just be too difficult for them. Now, I think at this time in Dirty 30, they had a redemption house. I might be wrong on that. So there's a way that they could have worked around this. Like, there's really no excuse for being this lazy. It really comes down to they didn't care that much. But the way Leroy tries to get it off, like TJ is this fantastic ally. Oh, he didn't defend he didn't defend me in the eyes of racism, but he's this fantastic ally because behind closed doors we discuss stuff. I don't care what you discuss behind closed doors. But if when shit hits the fan, you disappear. This is my problem with Kendrick Lamar. Whenever shit hits the fan, he disappears. You can spit as good bars as you want to, but if you're not around when the people need you, you're a part-time superhero. Meaning you're a part-time villain, in a sense. So, my point is, Leroy is trying his best not to hold everyone accountable, but the truth is, the minute you held producers accountable, Leroy, you held TJ accountable. To imply TJ's just working for production. TJ's part of production just like Bananas is. The way you're allowing Bananas and TJ to go ahead and Casper slide out of the way of some of this criticism, I got to keep it a bean, Leroy. This is where I don't agree with you. Because TJ enabled this. He enabled it. You know, all those players enabled this. It's sad, but it's true. And at the end of the day, let's keep it a bean, Leroy. You were a young black man, highly outnumbered and ostracized. You choosing the money over integrity at that time makes sense because I don't know if you had to go back home to Detroit, my guy. I don't know what war zone you may have had to go back to live in if you don't have the challenge, coach. I'm trying my best to put myself in your shoes. With that said, if TJ were to get fired, he was still set for life at that point. We talking dirty 30. This is well beyond the challenge becoming a big name. TJ would have been set for life. The fact that TJ feared being fired for having some integrity and standing up for the guy you claim to be your friend as well, it really shows a lot of these white men you claim are your homies, they ain't really that cool with you. Because ain't none of them going to risk their bacon for you. None of them will. And this is why I want to tell anyone black who's watching this, be careful who you call an ally and your friend. All these people ain't your friends and allies. Some of these people are acquaintances with benefits. You feel it, dig me? But that's a long statement to make. Oh, this is my acquaintance with a benefit. A lot of people don't want to say that. So instead, they just call everyone their friend. But that opens you up to be let down because you have high expectations for a person who you shouldn't have high expectations for. But I want to dive deeper into the idea that TJ didn't step up because at the end of the day, I'm at least happy Leroy mentioned his name. Because I've seen several examples of TJ talking about what happened the night before, throwing his weight around the whole nine. For TJ to just, oh, well, you know who won the competition yesterday? Huh? This is basically TJ implying it was okay because Camilla won the comp. Her behavior is fine because she won the comp. So that tells me if Camilla didn't win the comp, if Camilla and Tony didn't win the comp, first of all, if Camilla and Tony didn't win the comp, there's an argument to be had. Camilla isn't as sloppy drunk and doesn't go off as much because she isn't on a power trip. But with that said, I'm just saying that to be as fair as I can humanly possibly be. But with that said, she still should have carried herself better. And it shouldn't be incumbent or no, it shouldn't be reliant on whether or not the person wins the comp, whether or not you hold them accountable for their transgressions. That's my problem here. You know, during this moment, I know y'all had to have noticed them jump cuts. It tells me Leroy had a lot on the cutting floor, but decided to simplify his message. I'm never mad at a brother showing some tact. I commend him for not completely burning every bridge possible. He definitely was gaslighted enough too, though. The Stones. Then Leroy tries to give Bananas a pass, but I know Johnny, to some extent, allowed it to happen before denouncing it publicly. Leroy says it was an interview. I don't have that, but I have something else. So once he mentions the bananas of it all, that's when we're gonna really get into roasting bananas. He's about to do it in a second, Coach. If I know the timing of this all, he's about to do it in a split second.
I have to step up and say, hey, Camilla, do you have anything to say about your actions last night? She doesn't step up and say anything. I do. Like, imagine how much I'm burning up inside, knowing that not only am I pissed about what she said, but I'm also pissed that TJ, right? The producers didn't tell TJ to say something. I had to say something. I was the victim last night, and I had to bring up why something happened to me and basically force somebody to apologize. Somebody who wasn't going to do it on their own. Mind-blowing to me. It's just...
Oh, and also, let's not overlook the fact that production wanted Tony to become the eventual usurper, the eventual heir to the throne of Johnny Bananas and CT. I think some of this has to do with Tony also being Italian. Understand, they have to make sure someone Italian keeps winning. It's some rigging at play here based off of where you happen, what country your family is from. Notice that popping off too here. But yeah, there was a time when Tony was looked like the golden boy on this show. And make no mistake about it, this also contributes to why Camilla wasn't DQ'd. They wanted to help Tony reach the end, and I personally believe they wanted Tony to win that season. But once again, that's my opinion. That isn't necessarily fact-based, so we're going to keep it moving.
It's like, you might as well just spit in my face, because this was the worst apology anybody has ever given me. This is the worst apology anybody has ever given me to the magnitude of the things she said to me yesterday. And everybody in the room, as I'm looking at Johnny's face, is just kind of like, this is just trash. And Johnny's in an interview right now and he's saying there's no excuse for using that type of racial language, Camilla. And the way Johnny stood up and spoke in his interview, that's what I'm talking about. That's how everyone should feel. MTV, that's how you should feel. That's how you should feel about this situation. And clearly you
Hey, man, hey, well, I'm going to let him finish.
don't.
I don't agree with giving Bananas all this credit, and here's why, Coach. All right, here's the time. Here's the time to unleash. Here's the time. He finally mentioned this interview Bananas gave that none of us have seen, or if we did see, it's on Paramount Plus maybe. But I want you all to see this real quick. Oh, yeah, we got some stuff on deck here. This is Bananas recounting a story of what happened that day. I want y'all to listen to what Bananas has to say. I want you to cross-examine it based off Leroy's perspective on what happened. Now remember, Now remember, Leroy has a perspective on this that Bananas should be given credit because Bananas, in some way, shape, or form, had his back. Because he threw a pillow at Camilla and then he had some interview to be named later. Now, let's watch Bananas' perspective on all of this. And then I'm going to ask y'all. Well, I'm not even going to ask y'all because it's pre recorded, but I'm just going to give y'all my perspective, my urban translation, what's really going on here. Pay close attention to this.
Of what was said and how bad it was. But for Leroy to, man, just stand there in the face of, the absolute belligerent insults that were coming her direction, for him to stand there and not just weather the storm, but stand there with such grace and such poise. I mean, not to get too crazy, but that's like what Gandhi preached about, That's what the civil rights movement was all about, was not fighting back. You know what I mean? Was peaceful protest.
See. Now. Here's the thing. Of course, Bananas likes that turn the other cheek shit. Leroy was a loyal soldier to him. He didn't want him DQ'd. That messes up Bananas' chances of winning future seasons. Even now, Bananas is still thinking about himself in a subtle aspect, but it always comes off wrong for someone non-black to tell us how we should react to racism. At the end of the day, it's not really your place. Now, he's trying to be supportive here in this moment. He's comparing this man to Gandhi and all this other hot shit. But once again, you're saying how, the amount of integrity, the ability to not be emotional in that moment and to not blow up on her. That's why it's incumbent upon you white folks to do it. Blow up on her so that black man doesn't have to be stereotyped. You didn't do that though. You let the shit ride. So imagine, Bananas, the friend of Leroy, is getting all this credit from Leroy, but he didn't defend him. All he did was allegedly throw a pillow at Camilla. Come on, bro. Come on. Can we really use our thinking caps here? Let's continue this.
And the way Leroy handled himself and the way he composed himself, and while she was in his face, saying all the nasty shit that she was saying, for him to stand there and to not yell back and to not argue back, and for him to just have the presence of mind and the foresight to know that everything she said was gonna be punishment enough, in my opinion, awesome. Leroy, I gotta hand it to you, bro. I always knew that you were special for a reason. Tonight, it was on full display. Love you, buddy. Wish you had Instagram, because I would love to be able to, tag you in on this and bring you in on it. But just know that if you watch this, buddy, I know we've just got off texting each other, but I'm with you.
So yes, this was years ago when Banana said this, by the way.
And America's with you. So with that being said, hope everyone liked the episode. Let's get to a few comments here, questions. Let's see. Yep. Like Unconditionally Ash said, good for housemates for standing up for him. That's what Dr. King dreamed of. Honestly, how could you not? How could you not stand up for such a solid dude? Brittany Carroll,
but y'all ain't stand up for him in a moment.
Guy, has so much more power handle the situation the way he did. That's what I was saying, Brittany, is like, if you saw what happened like last season, or what was it, the season before, when Leroy,
But see, Leroy, due to a systemically toxic environment, Leroy did not have a choice. So we have a video years after the fact of Leroy telling his side, saying he regrets not defending his honor. He regrets not speaking up for all future black players. We have years ago, Johnny Bananas, before Leroy's even on Instagram, because he dated it by saying, I hope Leroy gets an Instagram. We know Leroy did this video on Instagram the other day. So we have a situation here where Bananas is applauding Leroy for not defending himself and for allowing racism, okay? And we have Leroy telling us Johnny Bananas is an ally and a best friend. So do you see a situation here where Bananas and Leroy are both conveying polar opposite messaging here? Leroy saying, I should have been more radical. Bananas is saying, no, you should have stayed docile. Now, who does it benefit the most for Leroy to stay docile. Someone who's part of production that plays the game like Bananas. So even here you are seeing Bananas choosing the company over his friend. But once again, I have to be the one to show y'all this. Now, let's continue with the rest of this video.
When Camilla and Tony got into it when they were both drunk, it made them both look bad. And there wasn't really like a teachable moment from like what happened there because they both were being complete idiots, right? Whereas with this, it was so clear. Had Leroy flipped out and had he yelled back at her and had he started throwing insults back her direction, it would have totally made the whole situation null and void. And it would have taken a lot of, you know.
But why would it have made it null and void, Johnny? Because he's black. Not because he's a man, because he's black. You're aware of the fact that it's a double standard, and you still didn't step up and say something on his behalf, knowing how he would appear if he defended himself. How can Johnny Bananas play both sides of allowing Camilla to get that shit off, not defending his friend, then after a fact giving his friend credit for not defending himself, which is suddenly him trying to explain why he didn't defend him too? But this is all backfiring on you, Bananas, because really what you're saying in this video is you had no excuse not to defend him because you already knew Leroy couldn't afford to defend himself. Oh, man, I should be a lawyer. We just cross-examined them. We figured out Bananas is full of shit. Recency bias radio has cracked the case. He's part of the problem. But let's continue.
Just the negativity out of the situation would have put it on both parties when she was 100% at fault. There was not anything that was going on in that room that we were talking about that deserved that type of outburst. My point on the show was this: drinking does not make you say racist stuff. Okay, that's just not how it works. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to go out and you're going to have a bunch of shots and all of a sudden you're going to start leveling racial insults at people. There has to be something wrong with you in the first place. It's got to be ingrained in you. And honestly, after watching it again, it was almost worse than watching it the first time. I will say this though. There's been a few people that hit me up and they're like, oh, well, why didn't...
Now, that was Johnny Bananas' entire perspective on all of that. Now, I'm going to show y'all footage of how this fight happened real quick, just to re-jingle it in your mind, just to show you all Bananas was right there and did absolutely nothing, okay? I want y'all to know this, because Bananas, it's real easy to play this game of, I have my friends back at all times. I can't believe Camilla would do such a thing. Everything we were talking about did not warrant that response. You're saying a lot of stuff that should be applauded, Bananas. But we know how much pull you have. See, if this was just another guy, like if this was Tony, if this was Nelson, if this was Corey, if this was one of these guys who was never handed multiple seasons with multiple riches, who can pretty much choose any girl on the roster they want to date for a season and the girl doesn't have a choice. All right, let's just keep it a bean here. Let's just keep it a bean here. There's a lot of toxic stuff popping off that even Johnny Bananas has benefited from. So I find it very funny that now all of a sudden he's trying to act like he's against production's decision and he's with Leroy's decision and all this other stuff. The truth is, if production was better and had more integrity behind with their own actions, then then Camilla would have been DQ'd immediately, and Bananas would have been pushing for that DQ immediately. TJ would have walked in and brought up the fight immediately. Everyone involved would have done something immediately. But it seems like everyone were in cahoots to not do anything for some reason. And that's what's bizarre to me. But let's continue, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to show y'all this situation with Camilla losing her mind. Oh, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. For whatever reason, it was not working when I first played it.
Who's gonna take
There
her
it
out?
Who? Who's gonna take her?
Who's her?
Yeah, exactly.
Now you notice Bananas is right there.
Who's gonna take her out?
You coming?
Alright, well, I'll say what I had to say.
You just said who's gonna take her out? Who's her?
Relax, Camilla. Stop.
Who's her? I'm asking.
Well, not you, Camilla.
He was talking about the girls. Tony, no. Who are you talking about? Who is her?
Camilla, I'm not doing this with you right
You
now.
just said who's gonna take her out? Who is
What
her?
are you talking about? You just walked in this room out of nowhere. I'm
No,
not
I
having an
wasn't.
argument
I've
with you.
been listening.
Just when I thought the night was over, we have a special appearance from Camilla, Nita.
Camilla,
Are you talking about me?
you're drunk.
Now, I'm not going to play that whole video because they have music in the background, and I'm not trying to deal with the nonsense because the last video I tried to premiere and they hit me with some BS. I'm just going to put it that way. But what y'all need to understand is, if we're going to say that Camilla's behavior is learned, we need to also say that the environment on the challenge is learned as well. Okay? If we're going to play this game, we need to play it all around. And at the end of the day, Johnny Bananas, CT, both of those guys were in that same room with Camilla, the Camillinator, and they didn't step up once for Leroy. Now, you could create the argument CT was never as close to Leroy as Bananas is. And that's why, to an extent, I'm giving CT a pass for this. Because CT, he likes the chaos because he can just blend in and skate by to the end again. But in Bananas' case, he is the main person who had to step up for Leroy here to have any real credibility in the black community. He needed to do it. He failed to do it. He showed us he cared more about the money than his friend. And in a nutshell, he sets the example for everyone underneath him to choose money over their friends too. If the person at the top won't take a stand and choose integrity over money, then everyone underneath him is incentivized to do the same because they see him constantly getting seasons rigged for him after making those decisions. This is part of the toxic environment. See, we need to talk cause and effect here. See, I know y'all thought this video would be good, but I'm sure this is better than even y'all expected because I'm talking about a lot of stuff that if people really hear me out, they can improve Challenge 38 overnight. But you got to hear me out first. All right? But let's let Leroy further give his thoughts. Now that y'all have seen the imagery of the fight, you've seen Bananas' interpretation of what happened, and we've already seen me body Bananas. But yeah, so at the end of the day, Bananas is super fake. Leroy did so much for him on so many seasons just for Bananas to not have his back versus Camilla. And keep in mind, Bananas can do no wrong in the eyes of production. So Bananas could have matched Camilla's energy a lot easier than Leroy could have in that situation, hence why even Camilla was roasting Leroy for never winning a season. It was paramount that a friend of his that had won a season before had his back there. But Bananas cared more about the money than his friend, despite all the seasons Bananas won with the help from this same friend. With friends like this, who needs enemies? Hell, if he wanted, Bananas could have banned Camilla from the damn show right after that racist stuff went down. The fact that Bananas acts like Leroy is his friend, but he never spoke up for him once during the footage of the fight says a lot. Easy for Bananas to give Leroy props for not losing his head when Bananas never has to be subjected to this as an apex pet. We saw that happen when Devin applied some pressure to Bananas seasons after this. Devin got banned from the show and had to publicly apologize just to be brought back, even though Bananas disrespected his late father. I'm saying this to remind y'all that Bananas was Camilla towards Devin. It just wasn't racist what he did to him. But it was still bullying, it was still petty, and it was still uncalled for. This proves apex pets are graded on a different behavioral scale than everyone else, which also proves the game is rigged. Exposed. See, Bananas, if you're going to be the guy acting like Leroy is that guy for doing what he did to turn the other cheek, why couldn't you do that same thing with Devin? Why did you need a public apology for Devin to return on seasons you're not even playing on? If you're not connected to production by the hip. See, I'm just building my case even further why Bananas has no excuse not to defend Leroy in front of Camilla then. Because clearly Bananas has so much power, he can keep people off seasons when he's not even around. Now do you see why I do not support Leroy giving Bananas all this credit for shit he does not deserve? Woo, this this, Rant. It's a classic. Let's keep it moving.
And it's really heartbreaking and sad. And I've had a lot of time to like gather all my emotions together. But to know that a network at this point, where I've given at least 7 to 8 years of my life to everything, you guys are basically just recording it. You're not doing anything to help me. Nothing. And yeah, I don't know. And Tony said he thinks that it's great
good TV.
that I brought it up. No, Tony. It would have been great if the producers would have brought it up, right? And
exactly. It would have been great if y'all white folks brought it up. If y'all not gonna point out the racism, it makes no sense for me to do it. Because as soon as I do it, y'all gonna stay quiet and act like y'all didn't see it, like y'all are currently doing right now. But if all of them didn't speak up for you, how can you point out what 1, 2, or 3 people out of the group are real allies and who isn't if they waited for you to bring it up, Leroy? Come on, man. At the end of the day, all these people jumped on code for the bag. And they said, are you willing to risk your bag to be on code? And they basically guilt tripped a victim into believing they were wrong for feeling like the victim. That they basically implemented Stockholm Syndrome in Leroy during this season. That's what's messed up. But let's continue.
this is nothing like to against Tony. I'm just going off of what he said because he's like, it's good that I brought it up or whatever the case may be. But I'm just saying, like, it would have been better if they had to say something, not that I brought it up. I shouldn't have to bring it up. That's the thing. Why do black people always have to be the one who's beating the drum over what happens, right? The producers.
Trust me, I'm frustrated about this too. People call me a race baiter just because I'm the only one willing to say it because none of these white people have the balls or the ovaries to say it to create any real change because they like what they see. And that's really the truth here. We got a lot of people who like seeing that shit. They won't admit it out loud because that would be terrible for them. But a lot of people like this stuff. That's why they never spoke on this stuff. That's why it was forced upon me to speak on it for an entire community, and then I'm the guy everyone tries to shadow ban off of that, when in reality, I'm trying to help the product as a whole. So it just goes to show, if you try to improve the product for the better for everyone, you're viewed as the real villain, and the people who enable the prejudice, who enable the bigotry, they get to consistently maraud around as the ones with all the sponsorships and all the plugs and all of the networking because they're the ones constantly sweeping all the skeletons in the closet. It's sad, but that's the truth. And this is why I feel like there is no one as righteous as I am that breaks down these shows. Because for better or worse, I tell y'all the truth.
The people that are higher up need to bring it up. She is so nasty. She is such a nasty person. And this apology just making me sick looking at it. And anybody watching it shouldn't.
Oh yeah, this is another movie.
And it's not to bash her, but this is just the reality of the type of person she was. I don't know what she is now, but then she was a very nasty, bitter, angry, disgusting person. And the look on her face with that apology, just kind of like blowing it off, it's like, damn, you just don't get it. And the tears, it's like, miss me, please, please.
WGCT.
At this point, I want to be over it, so I'm like, hey, I accept her apology. So with me saying that I accept her apology, MTV, was that was enough for y'all? Y'all thought that, like, okay, she said she was sorry, he said he accepts it, and you guys are like, okay, since he accepts it, then we accept it, because that's not how this should work. I don't know what I was thinking right there. And Leroy, as I'm watching you, my brother, I don't know what you were thinking. I know that you were scared. I know that you were just like over it. You just wanted to be over. I just wanted it to be over. Like, this is something that has been going on for hours. I wanted just to be over. And as I watched my last interview here, I said, I don't think that Camilla's racist. I don't think that she's prejudiced. My brother.
Nah, hold on. Let me let him finish that
You
thought.
must be blind.
It's not that you're blind, my brother. It's that production coerced you into saying that. And you can't outright say that they coerced you into saying that, but I know you were. When you talk about the fear that you had, that fear was bestowed upon you by production. They put y'all in the Squid Games. They only pick 2 or 3 black people tops for a season that look like you. You feel as if you have the weight of the world on your shoulders because if you mess up this opportunity for all black men, they're going to start picking just 1 per season. So you got to deal with that. You're dealing with the fact that you've never won a season and you actually are a competitor. You actually want to win. So in between seasons, you're doing the pre-gaming. You're doing the preseason alliances. That's why you're getting nice and up close to bananas. You're hoping this relationship will prove to help you in the near future by helping you win a season. But if you really look at it, Leroy, your most successful seasons in terms of actually having a chance to win, they all came when Bananas wasn't around the late game. Let's really think about it. I feel like 34, the season you had a chance to win, Bananas didn't make it to the end that season. And the last season, which was Double Agents, Bananas wasn't even on that season. So if you really connect the dots, Leroy, I'd argue you always played better without Bananas. It's just at the early stages you thought you needed Bananas. Then eventually, once you found, once you find that black queen, once you find that woman that loves you unconditionally, that you can be yourself around, then that made Leroy a little bit more comfortable in his skin, proverbially within the game. And then he was more comfortable with flipping. And then he was more comfortable with playing for himself. But even then, you saw guys like Zach fighting with Leroy, looking at him as some Brutus who betrayed the apex pets of yesteryear because Leroy looked out for himself during 34. But please explain to me, when has any of these white players of yesteryear ever chosen to look out for Leroy? They never chose to. So Leroy had every right to do what he wanted to do that season. So he did. But these white players still had the type of privilege to believe Leroy still owed them, even though all of them still owe him for not fully blowing up that Camilla shit a long time ago. Leroy did that for the betterment of the company. He was a company man at that moment. Heavily influenced, in my opinion, by Bananas not to blow it up further. And this is why Bananas is giving him tons of credit for not blowing it up, because I believe through Bananas' counsel, Leroy made that decision. And I think Leroy has some regret now based off the advice he took from Bananas, but because he's still close to him, he doesn't want to outright bash him, similar to how he doesn't want to bash TJ. This is why he is playing this game of selective blaming. But the truth is, once you start blaming producers, you're blaming TJ and Bananas by proxy anyway. So just blame them as well.
Leroy, then, if you didn't think this girl was racist, I want you guys to all look up the definition of racist and being prejudiced, and that would definitely be it. So for those who are watching, I wanted to read out the definition for you, but I want you guys to look at this episode and then go look up the definition of racist and see is everything that happened to me that night considered someone to be racist. I think so. And me saying that, I feel like I don't know why, Lee, like I'm trying to make everyone else feel comfortable about what went on. When I was targeted because of the color of my skin, verbatim, pointed out, singled out, and had violence put on me. Like, I was hit with that pillow violently, and she said she's sorry. I said I accept it, and the show goes on, and that's the end of the episode. So for the rest of the season, the rest of the time I spent there before I was eliminated, I didn't speak to her. I didn't want to have nothing to do with her. And I remember after everything that happened that night, the couple of producers or the next morning, they asked me, and it's really always sticks out with me, they asked me if I wanted to see a therapist. And I say to myself, a therapist? No, I don't want to see a therapist. I've been black my whole life. At that point, I was 30 something, maybe 31 years old. I don't want to see no damn therapist. I want you guys to do something.
And see, let me urban translate this. Producers basically told Leroy to his face, Camilla doesn't have any mental issues, it's you. Her being racist towards you isn't an indicator of her needing a therapist. You need a therapist. Because this obviously did more damage to you than it will ever do to any of us who have no problem with what she did in the first place. See, this is so condescending on so many levels, and I'm happy he brought this up. Now, it does appear that Leroy has seen a therapist that has made him go through the stages of grief to have the acceptance to make this video. I'm assuming some things there. But with that said, Camilla's the one who needs therapy, if you ask me. Not the black man. The victim is not, 9 times out of 10, the victim does need therapy, but the offender needs therapy more. 9 times out of 10. It's not as if Leroy, for the rest of his life, will look at every Brazilian woman as a racist. So he doesn't necessarily need therapy because this moment didn't scar him for life. On the contrary, I believe this moment taught him what's really real, and this was the beginning of him being more codified within the game of the challenge. But with that said, for a producer to come up to me and recommend a shrink, but they don't recommend the same thing to the woman who just went on this tirade, hit me with a pillow, used racially insensitive rhetoric, went downstairs, grabbed weights, threatened to bring them back up to my face to either throw them at me or hit me with. Listen, she's violent beyond belief, But if she has a nickname of Camillinator, that means she has a reputation before this that precedes her. Therefore, she shouldn't get any benefit of the doubt. She should have been an instant DQ. If Faisal or Fessy had no historical context of being DQ'd prior to the moment that he got DQ'd, why isn't an instant DQ for him but not for Josh, who also had prior fights before this? Because once again, Camilla and Josh are one and the same in the eyes of producers. I got to keep bringing this back home full circle because I got to make sense out of this to the people who think that this was just an isolated incident. No, these incidents happen all the time. They're just swept under the rug a little bit better. But let's continue.
I want you guys to stand up for me. The same person you call every season and I come run it, I want you guys to do something for me. Why are you guys not doing anything? I don't understand. And the fear that I had of speaking up, right? Because you guys have already shown me who you are by not saying nothing. If I would have beat the drum and said, yeah, I'm going home, you guys would have for sure talked me out of it. And everything, you guys would just try to make everything seem like it was sweet. And that's not a...
I mean, let's be real. We saw this same production team a season or two ago when Lolo Jones was playing. We saw this same production team go, I think this was a season ago. We saw this same production team about a season ago create a fake reason for why Lolo Jones left. Cause remember, Lolo wanted to straight up quit. Then eventually then eventually Lolo said, hey man, listen, if y'all never gonna throw me in because y'all scared of me getting a skull, I can just go home and start preparing for the Olympics then. Because y'all not even trying to give me the opportunity to play. Y'all trying to freeze me out of the game altogether because y'all are scared. Another black person treated unfairly, by the way. But once again, people let that ride because they feared Lolo in a final because she was a distance runner. I get that to an extent, but damn. How do y'all have this type of fear for a newcomer, but y'all don't have this fear for CT? That's part of the rigging that producers allow to happen. Okay? I got to show y'all these things. All right? But let's continue again.
A company that loves you. That's not, and some of these producers and higher ups, I've known for years. They see me at my best and at my worst. And right now, I'm at a vulnerable state, and all you can do is ask me if I need to see a therapist. And so,
because they don't really care about black people.
I go home. Camilla goes home. No apology. Not only is Camilla allowed to stay on the show, but she actually wins the show. Do you know how much that burned me up inside? The fact that this girl went on a whole racist rant and was violent towards me.
And was
You
rewarded.
guys allow her to stay on the show, which is a privilege. It's a privilege to be on MTV. It's also a privilege for MTV to have us as cast members. So it kind of goes both ways. It's a
No, Leroy, I gotta correct you there, brother. It's a privilege for black people to be on MTV. See, that's the thing. That's how they get you, Leroy. They convince you it's a privilege to be on their show, as they get you to allow everything under the sun that's disrespectful to you and your ancestors combined. But when it comes to the Camillas of the world who pass as white, she has her own privilege before she steps into their privilege. This is why she can have 9 lives like she's Catwoman in this bitch. But a black man got to be careful. Black women got to be careful. These are the reasons why. What I would do to see Camilla versus Cam in a hall brawl right now. Oh, my days.
privilege for me to come on your show. Believe that. It's a privilege to have me. To have someone like Leroy is definitely a privilege. But you allowed this girl to stay on the show, and she won. And she won all the money. So you basically rewarded her for being racist and being violent. That makes no sense.
We've seen Viacom do this for Jackson Mickey. We saw this. Now, I didn't watch the season, but I know he won the season now. We saw this during BB21. There's always someone who has this situation that producers never decide, I'm sure fans would love to see this person get their karma by getting sent out right before the end. Let's make sure this happens. No, it's almost like they get a kick out of, everyone hates this person. They're so polarizing. I think if we help this person win by rigging it, we'll get the most ratings on finale night. It's like they look at it in an inverted way. It's weird. It's sadistic. But now do you see why Leroy was tired of this environment? Why he decided, man, I'd rather just cut heads the rest of my life. F all this. He's seen enough, man. I support this brother wholeheartedly, man. This is dope to me.
I've seen people get sent home for less. So what is it about her, or what is it about me that made you not care about what happened to me? Because basically that's what you're telling me. And imagine having to go through a whole season, finish out the rest of the season, and lose and know that this girl is still there competing for the money when I should have been there and she should have been gone. She wins.
This is the same type of torture, I'd argue, happened to Mark Jackson in basketball. Now, y'all know me. If I don't give y'all sports analogy here and there, I'm not doing my job well enough. But Mark Jackson, former New York Knick, former Indiana Pacer. Mark Jackson, former point guard, was the head coach of the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. He was the first head coach that started Draymond Green, started him over David Lee, and he got the ball rolling towards the death lineup that we know of today. The NBA decided, hey, Mark, you did well to get these guys here, but we want a white head coach to get them over the hump. So they brought in Steve Kerr. And then they put Mark Jackson on the ABC not countdown, but the ABC desk, the ESPN desk. So he does play-by-play. And do you notice that all the time they have Mark Jackson covering Golden State Warriors games? So they force him to be subjected to his players being successful without him. That's torture in a sense. The reason why I'm mentioning this is it's very similar to what Leroy went through after Dirty 30. Finding out that Camilla won after such an incendiary situation, when in his mind she should be out the game, he should still be in the game. That's like Mark Jackson believing Steve Kerr shouldn't have that job. That should still be his job. You see where I'm bringing this all together? So this is what all of these companies seem to always coincidentally do to black men in favor of helping some white person make more money, get more shine, more notoriety, more fame. We are the stepping stools, the stepping stones for our white counterparts to get more success over us. Our white counterparts can steal from our entire intellectual property, get credit for it because of the US patent system designed to steal from black intellectuals. At the end of the day, all these things have been proven through history. I'm just here regurgitating talking points to show y'all that Leroy is going through what a lot of black people have to go through. But the problem I have is with the way he is gaslighted, and then he is coerced not to feel the way he feels because he can't afford to as a black man. This creates pent up anger in this brother. And this fully explains why his final season was so pro black, because he wanted to make sure that was his legacy. And I commend him for that. I just wish he would have been granted the ability to win that season. And based off historical context, we know for a fact now that CT and West should have been the first people to be in elimination at the beginning of 36. Production did not allow that to happen, and that in turn helped CT win the game. Now let me ask y'all this. If the entire house decided Leroy had to go in versus Corey week 1, does production step in and make it a women's elimination, or do they let a black man go home first? I think they let a black man go home first. And that shows you the real preferential treatment in all of this. And this is why I believe Leroy got fed up. Because if the game itself is rigged, why am I here? If I've now saved up enough money to have my own business, I don't need y'all anymore for money. So I'm literally just doing it for the passion of the game. But if the game is rigged and broken, then the game has no integrity either. So why am I really coming back for? For the clout? I don't need the clout. Me and my lady good. Like, Leroy had to come to the decision a lot of black people, black entertainers have to come to, where it's better off, you're better off betting on yourself and being able to look yourself in the mirror than constantly just being the puppet of all these people who look at you no more as a pawn on their chess set.
And then they have another show called Chef vs. Stars that was filmed the same summer, probably like a month later. They invited her to do Chef vs. Stars. So wait a minute, let's run it back. Racist Rant, being violent, keeps her on the show. She wins the show, $450,000. Then you invite her to do Chef vs. Stars. But there, she does the same exact thing. So as I said before, you guys could have stopped this from happening if you'd have stopped her from doing the show years ago, because she was already showing signs of being drunken, belligerent, violent. I'm reminded all the time.
In a sense, you could argue that MTV did the Uncle Ben. Y'all remember Spider-Man? Remember how Peter was going through his bad boy stage a little bit? And remember he did that little odd job to make a little money on the side because he wasn't getting paid much of the Daily Bugle. Remember how he had to fight that dude in that cage match to make a little bit of money, but the guy swindled him and refused to pay him what he really owed him? But then he got robbed by a guy who took the money, but the guy had a gun. Later on in the movie, that guy ends up shooting Uncle Ben because Uncle Ben was the one who tried to stop him. If Spider-Man would have just stopped the robber in that moment, Uncle Ben doesn't get shot. If MTV stops the bleeding as soon as Camillinator is racist the first time, we don't have the second moment where she was racist again. But because MTV saw nothing wrong with it the first time, they created the negative karma on themselves to have to be forced into disciplining her the second time. And let's be real here. Once you get rewarded 450 grand after being racist, motherfuckers can't tell you nothing after that. You become Kanye West. Can't tell me nothing. You know? And that's just the truth of it all. They created a monster in Camilla, literally and figuratively. And they thought they could control her. But after a certain point, you've created too much of an uncontrollable beast. Leroy tried to get you to tame this animal before the animal grew fangs. You know? Leroy tried to work with you all to put the muzzle on this chick. Y'all said, nah, Leroy, you're being a little too sensitive here. Let her just bite you. But then the minute she starts biting at a few stars with real clout, who could really bring a spotlight to the systemic environment on the challenge, then they took it seriously. You see that, Leroy? You weren't celebrity enough for them to change their ways because you said something. So they were even telling you right then and there they value celebrities more than a man who's been putting his blood, sweat, and tears into helping their show become more mainstream for 10 years. That also shows another problem MTV has. But let's continue.
About what happened to me on Dirty 30. And it's something that I can never get away from. It's something that I try to block out of my mind for years. And I feel good being able to express myself. It definitely sucks that the network didn't have my back. And that's something that I just have to live with. Even though a lot of this happened years ago, this is still trauma that I live with today. And speaking about this now actually makes me feel a lot better.
That's
But
good, brother.
then everything came rushing back once some fans was sending me some DMs and they were like, "Hey, Leroy, did you know that MTV still follows Camilla on Instagram?" I'm like, what? There's no way that MTV will be following her on Instagram.
They telling you what it
in my
really
mind,
is,
you
man.
know, it doesn't matter. And then I'm thinking to myself, that's you, Lee, being a pushover again. It does matter because when we think of Instagram, the people you follow, you support. So that's
Also, I want to point this out as well. Do not overlook the fact that Camilla may have her inclusion on seasons may have led to the challenge having an entirely different audience in Brazil. They may have also feared blacklisting her because they would have blacklisted the country of Brazil as well. I'm not saying this to create any excuse for any of their behavior. I'm just saying that if I'm going to bring up how rookies are being picked based off being from certain regions where we haven't had representatives in the past to play the challenge, then you also have to take into account that they may have saw Camilla as a valuable asset because there was no one else from Brazil at that time that was a big name on the show. I think this could have also played a role. But I'm not creating any excuses for what they allowed to happen. I'm just trying to bring more spotlight to the situation to show y'all that this is mainly about money.
have been one of the first things that should have been done. So this happened years ago, and to know that the network is still following her on social media makes me think like everything they've been saying thus far is just
grifting.
a bunch of BS. So then I looked, and the person who sent me this said, "Leroy, did you also know that MTV doesn't follow you?" And I'm thinking to myself, what? And so as I look, MTV is definitely following Camilla on Instagram still, and MTV isn't following me. Now for myself, I could really care less whether they're following me, but it's just, it really makes me kind of angry, and it also is disheartening to know that still this network is still supporting her and not supporting me. I feel as if the network needs to start holding cast members and anyone that they employ at the network accountable for their actions. If you show any signs of racism or you say anything that has to do with the color of someone's skin or any type of discrimination or any type of racist gestures, you should never be allowed to be back on the show again. And you can't kick someone off the show and then try to bring them back in the future or try to sneak them on when the climate is kind of down and no one's thinking about it. So
Thank you for saying this, Leroy, because they're trying to do this with Jordan. We all can see it coming a mile away. Jordan out here entertaining Naya, kissing her on the cheek on the boat. Become a patron today if you want to hear my thoughts on Jordan and Naya. Oh, I gave them a great video about that as well. But my point is, you got these people trying to rebrand themselves as being pro-black just because they like some black cooter here and there. No, there's more to being pro-black than to just lust after our women. Right? There's more to being pro-black than to just lust after our men, right? There's more to that than that. And that's why I always say blackness is a mentality. It isn't just about how you look. It's about your mindset. And at the end of the day, Leroy grew up a lot on this show because he was subjected to a lot of crossroads in which he had to make decisions that are really tough for someone in that age to really think about. The amount of weight on this brother's shoulders were insurmountable, and I would never want to be in that same position of having to choose whether I make money to pay rent or if I take a stand, never be brought back, and who's going to look out for me when that happens. Shoot, as a black creator, I look around and I go, for all of the work I've put in, for all of the things I've exposed, I don't feel as if the community rallies behind me anywhere near enough. So I could see why someone in Leroy's shoes on the show would be worried about standing up on his square for what he believes in. Because let's be real, black people do not mobilize as well as we need to support each other, especially the ones who deserve the support. We'll mobilize to support some girl half naked on the internet who's being slut shamed. We'll mobilize to support some deadbeat dad dude who's gangbanging. We'll do those things, but let it be a brother with some vernacular, with a vocabulary, standing up for all black people on a certain show. We'll figure out petty reasons not to support that person. So I've seen this I've seen this first, I've seen this all first person, right? So I fully can relate to Leroy's conflict inside. I can see it. With that said, I still have always stood on my square and done what was right over making business decisions. And I truly believe that I will be rewarded for it in the future by hook or crook. And that's why I don't really focus on it too much. But you got to understand, when you're on MTV, you're on that show to make money. You're basically a prize fighter on that type of a show, in a sense. You're there for the winnings. You're not there for anything else. But the heavily scripted nature of the show turns you into an actor who is paid to play a role. And you have to figure out, which actor am I? Am I the black guy who dies first in every movie? Or am I the black guy they allow close to the money but never to really touch it? Leroy was the guy they allowed close that could never touch it. So it was easy for him to convince himself he was at the cool kids table with them white folks. But even he had to get his Negro wake-up call when Camilla did that shit she did. And he saw firsthand how all of the friends he holds near and dear did not defend him in ways that he would have wanted. All Bananas could do for all the years that you have defended him was throw a pillow back. Interesting.
What I want the network to understand is that all eyes are going to be on you with every move that you make now. Because you drop the ball, then
That's how the video ends? All eyes are going to be you for every decision you make now because, and then it just goes black? Is this really how the video ended on IG? Okay, no. It comes back. It comes back like a minute or so later. Is this meant to happen or is my stuff tweaking? Maybe my stuff tweaking. I'm sorry about that, y'all. I didn't see that coming. I didn't know it
come
was
back
going to
on the
happen.
show after doing that. You know, I don't want to see someone have to take a break from the show for a couple seasons, then they're allowed to come back on. I don't think that's right.
We done lost ourselves in the music. Hold up. Okay, so about
Someone that has
around
ever
right
made a
here is
racist
when it came
gesture
back.
or said a racial slur towards someone.
Wait. Okay. All right, y'all. It's gonna come back shortly after this. I'm trying to time it up right. This is really bizarre. So what I'm thinking happened is I'm thinking Leroy said a whole bunch of real stuff and he forgot to jump cut it towards the end, and
Right.
instead we just had a
So if
blank
MTV
screen.
is trying to move forward and growing and evolving and righting their wrongs, you would allow someone to come back on your show, have to take a break from the show for a couple seasons. Anyone that has ever made a racist gesture or said a racial slur
All right,
towards someone is never allowed to do the challenge again. I wouldn't like to see someone come back on the show after doing that. You know, I don't want to see someone have to take a break from the show for a couple seasons, then they're allowed to come back on. I don't think that's right. So if MTV is trying to move forward and growing and evolving and righting their wrongs and becoming more of an ally, I think that that's a definite no, that you can't bring anybody back who has had that type of past. It's not right, it's not fair, and I just don't think that this should happen. So I'm going to be paying very close attention to the people that are casted when it comes to things of that nature, because that's definitely a huge trigger for me, knowing that you would allow someone to come back on your show to compete after they've been racist towards the cast member. Thank you guys so much for your time. MTV, you have my number, you have my email. I'm more than open to have a conversation with you on how we can make change happen. And the ball is in your court. All eyes are on you.
Wow. Wow. All eyes are on you. Ain't that the truth? So I am so proud of this brother for stepping up to the plate and
What's
and
up,
let's just
everybody?
say what it is. For preaching his truth, for telling how it is. And I really appreciate him doing this right now. Um, because this will alter the way production casts all stars in the future, because they'll have to do some digging into everyone's past to make sure it's not racially insensitive. This also means the Camillas, the Jordans of the world, you're not coming back anytime soon, which is also good. And I'm pretty sure there are plenty of other players who have had their lowlights moments that I just can't think of on the fly because I'm not as much of a challenge superfan as I would like to be. And that's why I am learning as I go as well, ladies and gentlemen. But with that said, Leroy put these people on blast something serious here. Not only did he expose the fact that tons of people allowed Camilla to get away with what she did, but he also exposed the fact that TJ Lavin isn't in control of any he's not in control of determining when people get DQ'd, which also is Leroy subtly telling us Fessy didn't get sent home because of TJ. He got sent home because of production, which also implies producers love Josh, they hate Fessy. Which also implies producer hates alpha males of color, they love beta males of color. Which also implies what? They do these things on purpose to make sure the only alpha males at the end are white. All of these things are connected. It's up to you to see it for yourself. But I hopefully in this video I've done a fantastic job of exposing what are the real problems here systemically. And hopefully this video has done enough of a job of shining a light on that so now we can work towards finding solutions. And that's what we all want. We all just want great entertainment, but we also want a great game. We want opposing sides. We want there to not be the same winner season to season. We want there to be parity. How is there going to ever be parity if you keep picking rookies that are only here to make sure they can make it to next season? Which means these rookies are willing to do whatever producers want them to do, including making bad decisions for their rookie season just to be brought back for another season. If you keep bringing people in that you know are desperate to be brought back, you're doing it because you want extra numbers for your vet pets to have control of the late game after a certain point. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wes mastered this strategy, but then he got vilified and villainized by other vet pets for using this strategy, just for shaking the game up and making it more interesting. Paulie and Kara got villainized and vilified similarly. Remember how Cara Maria was. Remember how production in the edit labeled her alliance a cult simply because she outplayed their pets? They'll compare you to the devil if you play for your own win conditions. But if you play for their pets' win conditions, they call you an angel. I mean, didn't uh, Nani, Jenna, and Kayla, didn't they have an alliance that was like built around that? Where they were supposed to be like a holy trinity? I think that was the name of the alliance, actually, the Holy Trinity. That was them that season of Total Madness. I mean, not Total Madness. I think that alliance formed in Total Madness, but there was them showing us the dichotomy right then and there. You do what we want, in the edit, we'll make you look majestic. You don't do what we want, in the edit, we're going to make you look like a goofball. But I thought we were all individual players playing our own game. Doing what I want should be what you expect of me because you picked me for this show to be different. But that's not why they picked these rookies. And hopefully this video has exposed why the casting process needs to be fixed, why the strategy needs to be fixed, and why the same monotonous pattern of targeting rookies and then letting the vet pet skate by to the end to win and we all act like it's so impressive at the end. Hopefully I've exposed why that's broken as well. So ladies and gentlemen, if you could, please do not forget to like this video, comment underneath it, and share the Patreon link with all the fans of the challenge that you rock with. I hope I did a great job of breaking down this Leroy video. I would like to see more content from him. And honestly, I'm loving this new feature I got where I can really do deep dives into what people are truly saying. Because y'all know me, when it comes to behavioral patterns, reading body language, nonverbal communication, I'm one of the most elite creators there ever was and there ever will be, coach. I got to toot my horn somewhere, coach. But I hope you all have enjoyed yourselves here. I'm Dave Smith for Recency Bias Radio, where no one is safe from criticism. And Leroy is the GOAT, because he brought to production all of the smoke. And I love it.